April 27, 2020 via teleconference using Zoom platform. Call this meeting to order. 6 o'clock adjustments to the agenda.
I was at the end of the meeting adhering to addendum 11 of the executive order, which describes training for employees.
I just signed up for work. Is that something you want to put on at the end of the meeting?
I think we're supposed to have some kind of training for employees.
Yeah, basically.
Everyone, yeah.
Well, they're delegating one, I can't remember the name of it, a safety protocol officer who needs to be trained, and then they can train everyone else in an organization.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be every individual. Resource safety officer training.
Okay.
So similar to the way COVID spreads, they're hoping one person can then train a lot of people and bring everyone up to speed on the requirements. It's a long list of documents you got to read up on before the training. I signed up for, it's completely booked until May 4th. So you'd have to, and the statute says everyone has to be trained by May 4th and have their certificate. But, mine's from 8:30 to 11 on Monday, May 4th.
So maybe you could be the trainer.
Oh, great. Double dip. Okay. Yeah. Hey, I could.
I just have a couple of things. And this is just from a kind of follow-up list. At some point, we do need to deal with the pump issue and that's just, it's a short-term, long-term issue. We got something about animal control. Dean and I had a brief chat about that today, just one of those follow-up things. And then the other thing we have to do, and this is a lot more complicated in terms of its legal obligation, is the request for documents from Green Lantern.
Yep, also on the agenda for tonight.
Oh, it is? Oh, good.
Yep.
How did I miss that? Okay, anyway, that's all I got.
8 o'clock. And I had the Green Mountain Power bill also. Mary sent a request. We bring that up tonight. So I was going to do that with select board updates. I also wanted to see if we could check in about the Wastewater Committee and see if anyone knows about what they're doing in this time.
Right.
I am on that liaison, and I have heard nothing from them. I mean, you mean the West Village Wastewater?
Yeah, they had a February 16th meeting was the last I heard. And then I haven't heard anything since.
Yeah, I don't know. I can follow up and get a hold of who's the chair of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it still Dave Marshall?
So,
Is that it, Dean? Is it Dave Marshall?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, animal control officer visit or follow-up, you said?
Well, that's just something that's, I'm sure you all saw it. It was just, it's I don't think it's a biggie, but it's just kind of like we got a complaint, and so we just need to, and repeat myself. I talked to Dean. I think he's got it.
Yep. Are people okay with all these tacked on with select board updates at the end?
yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. 6:01, public comment.
Silence.
Nice. Let's see, 6:05, the reappointments to committees, boards, and commission. List on page 2. David Ziegelman's here.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
You want to maybe introduce yourself and just briefly say why you're interested in?
Sure. David Ziegelman. I've been on the Trails Committee probably for on the order of 6 to 8 years. And I'm very interested in trying to give ways for our townspeople to be able to enjoy our beautiful town and our nature. And so our focus has been on the Charlotte Link Trail, but also maintaining the other trails that the town owns. And I'm up for another 2 years.
Great. Anyone have questions for David?
No, just a big thank you.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
Yep, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make
And
a motion to reappoint David Ziegelman to the Trails Committee for a term ending April 30, 2022.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Well, thank you for your work, and hopefully we have a good year of trail building this year.
exactly. We're looking forward to it. Thanks, Matt. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Is anyone else here? Judy, Jeff, Robin, Rolf, or Dorothy? I see some numbers I don't recognize.
I think Betsy might be one, and
Yeah.
then I'm not sure who the other is.
Um,
And whoever's on the phone, state who they are.
Yeah, Betsy.
and the 862-377-4290, are you there?
Oh, it's me.
Who is this?
Not sure.
Okay.
Is there audio on, Dean? Can you tell?
Yeah, it looks like it is.
It went green for a second there.
Yeah, I almost thought they were saying something.
Oh, are they gone?
Yes. Yes, they left.
Well, nothing like signing in
Right.
at the meeting.
There was some discussion of that just briefly among towns as to whether we need to record everybody that's present. And sometimes people show up at a meeting and they may not say anything. I guess this is really more having to do with planning and zoning hearings. And if they don't say anything, they're not technically interested parties. So, I mean, usually we do have people sign in, but some people don't. So, you know, hopefully they do, or they tell us who they are, but they don't have to. But maybe they'll come back.
Great. What is the board? What's the board's pleasure as far as, I think all of these are reappointments. Am I correct?
Yes.
So what are you thinking? A motion for all of them?
I think it's a reasonable thing to do considering.
I support that.
Make a motion to do the reappointments as presented.
And when things get back to meeting in person, hopefully we'll be able to meet them, which is the intent, and see what they're looking forward to doing on their committees. Is there a second to Frank's motion?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Judy Hill to Recreation Commission, Jeff Gickness to Recreation Commission, Robin Colburn, Thompson's Point Design Review Committee, Rolf Boomans to the Conservation Committee, and Dorothy Hill to the Charlotte Park and Wildlife Oversight Committee. So we thank everyone for their volunteer service, and hopefully we have a productive year.
I guess this is David here. I'll be back at 7:15 for the RFP for the trails.
Okay, see you then, David.
Thank
Great.
you.
The 610, job description of assessor. Have people had a chance to look through this?
I have, and I'm okay with it.
The only edit I wanted to add was on the last page, supervised by, instead of NA, I would have select board. I think when it was a elected position, it was not applicable because they had their own statutory authority. But now that they're an employee and the select board does the hiring, I think it'd be good for the select board to start out with the management of that, at least in the beginning, to be able to kind of steer that position because it's new if needed.
I mean, I've got a couple of small changes or questions.
Yep.
On number 13, it talks about generate change of assessment reports, mail out notices, and post information for appeals. The old number 19 talked about permits and things that would pertain to the lister's office, but that was taken out. So I'm just wondering where in here it tells that the lister should be looking at permits and adjusting their lister's card or their lister's information or their appraisal.
Great question, Frank.
That is a good, I thought I saw that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, just for the record, this is Betsy Tagat's.
Right, it was on number 19, but somebody
Yeah,
scratched it out.
so I'm guessing it got stuck in another, oh, here, number 11, I think, is schedule and provide direction for contracted appraiser so that inspections and building permits are completed in timely and accurate manner.
Okay.
Generate change of assessment report. So I think it's
They
just,
kind of combine then.
well, let me see here. Hold on. I just think it's just more detailed instead of overseeing it. It breaks it down, unpacks it a little bit, I think.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, because quadrant inspections and building permit valuations are completed. Work
Okay.
with contracted appraiser to value appraisal needs of the town. Yeah, I think that covers what we wanted to get at there.
Okay. On number 16, it talks about GL, which I'm assuming is the grand list.
Mhm.
We either got to define it at the beginning or write it out through the document.
That's fine with me. Whatever you guys want to do, you think is best.
Might as well just write it out.
I think it's a short enough term. We could.
On number 18, it talks about procuring IT assistance. Did we want to define that or just write technical assistance?
I'm okay with that. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be answering or you guys are, so,
We defer to you, I think. That's fair to say.
okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I mean, those are just, it's semantics and it's just a little more spelled out that way. I'm fine with that.
And then it says supervised by, and it says NA.
That's the one
Yeah,
where
I think that,
that's the one
Matt, you went ahead and did that.
I think should be select board.
That's what I thought.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, that was pretty much all I had. Simple things.
Betsy, do you think 22 hours a week will be
Enough?
enough? Too much?
Yes, I
Just-
think it's fine. I think 20 to 22, you know, I mean, you know, like any job, sometimes it gets a little crazier than other times. But I think at this point, 22 is fine. And, you know, we'll go from there later.
Could I just ask, the first two items that Frank mentioned before noticing the GL, were there any changes as a result of that, or everything that's in there is?
Oh, I think we said GL was just going to be written out as the grand list.
Right, but before that, you had a couple of comments on 13 and 16 and maybe 19.
According to Betsy, 19 is covered in 11.
Okay.
So that kind of takes care of 11 and 13 question. And then in 18, I just thought about, instead of saying IT, I was going to say technical assistance.
Okay, so yes, no change other than spelling out grand list, changing IT to technical, and changing supervised to select board.
Yes.
Just one of my little document pet peeves is, I guess, it's technically the specific duties and responsibilities with a colon is the beginning of a very long structural sentence. So there should be no periods until the end of 20 to each of those sentences.
Yeah.
You can blame my high school English teacher for putting that into me. I can't let that one go.
Not even a semicolon?
A semicolon would do the same thing. Oh, at the end of each sentence?
Yeah,
You can't, it is allowed.
okay.
That's a style.
And in the title, did you want to write assessor up in the title?
I would hope so.
I think it is right on the end, or at least the copy I got. I don't
Well,
know.
it says job title and it says assessor, but I'm just wondering if you wanted it in the title itself.
Oh,
This is the format I think it's used for all the other job descriptions.
Okay.
it looks good. Any other edits from people?
No, I'd make a motion to approve the job description for assessor as amended.
And I'll second that.
Thanks by Frank, seconded by Carrie. Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Great.
One thing we're gonna have to figure out a little bit down the road is who the interviewing process. But we can lean on Betsy.
That, and we'll also, at some point, need to go through the Palmer evaluation.
My initial thought, I mean, Betsy and I talked about it just briefly, is the job description hasn't really changed. So,
Yeah, I like that.
That's correct. It hasn't really at all. So
job description, assessor.
we're just kind of switching lister for assessor at this point.
And the scope of work and the responsibilities are the same.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. The
Great.
chief lister, yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy.
Okay, bye-bye.
Betsy, thanks for all your hard work.
All right, thank you.
Anyone want to tell a joke in the 3 minutes?
Oh, shucks. Well, it'll take me that long to find a document. I'll start doing that.
This is next agenda item, the application to VTrans for the structures grant for Monkton Road.
And Junior is on the phone, I see, but he's muted. So I'll just say briefly, the engineer Dubois and King did a engineering analysis and came up with basically 2 structural solutions and 2 non-structural solutions. And in order to get the grant from the state, we have to have a structural solution. And one of the structural solutions was what they call low density cellular concrete. And the other was like a styrofoam block kind of thing. And the low density cellular concrete is less expensive. And that was their ultimate recommendation in their memo, which I included the whole memo, I think, in maybe last meeting's packet, or maybe it was 2 meetings ago. And then this meeting, I just included a few pages. So, oops, it's a big packet. So that, we'll submit that with our application. And also they require with the application what the state calls a financial plan, which basically shows how much the town budgets for road maintenance and then where that money comes from. So the state provides approximately $196,000. The town provides approximately $707,000. Did I say 196,000? Yeah. And then based on the budget that the highway budget that Junior puts together, the winter maintenance is about 225, and then non-winter maintenance is everything else coming up to 903, 250. So we need to submit that. It needs to be either signed by the select board or a duly authorized representative to be included with the application. So on that note, Junior, you want to unmute and have any comments?
I don't think I have any comments at this time.
I have a quick question for Junior and or Dean. On page 2, existing structures, the first section there. One of the boxes that could be checked is ditch. There is ditching on one side of that road, or no?
Yes, there is a ditch on the west side of the road.
So should we check that?
So that's the opposite side of the road. I don't think you're saying the bottom box, new ditches will be established. Is that the one, Matt?
No, top one, existing structures, check all that apply.
Oh, okay. Ditch, existing structures. I suppose we could.
And then the other question I had was in that same one, the bottom right box is buildings over 50 years old within 300 feet of work. I know some houses are close, but I didn't know on that exact stretch on that side of the road.
Yeah, I think we took a look at that when we applied for the engineering grant, and I don't believe the house that's nearest, which is just on the south side of it, is 50 years old, or it's not within 300 feet. I know we looked at that. I can look at the previous application. I can relook at that just to see.
Yeah, I was going to say that there probably was, you're talking Flynn's house, that was probably in the, 70s, 80s, somewhere in there. So it's probably right around, close to 50.
Okay. By the way, we probably will need a temporary easement from the Morses. They're the property owner that's directly adjacent to this area, in order to do construction. But we can wait until we see what the grant, I'm thinking we probably will get the grant, but anyway, if, we wouldn't be able to start work until after July 1st anyway. And we can look into that at that point.
Yeah, I think that they're okay with it. I mean, I talked with them earlier and they were okay with it. So I'm pretty sure that there shouldn't be a problem there.
Right.
Thank you for doing that, Junior, so early on.
You're welcome.
Hey, Junior, as long as you're on, it's Louise. How your crew's doing now that they've got the go-ahead from the governor? Is that working for you?
Yeah, it seems to be working fine for us. Yeah, we went back last, a week ago today.
Excellent.
Matt just said he somehow lost the connection, so he's trying to reconnect. He just texted me. He says he might be having a Wi-Fi situation.
Well, there you go, Frank.
There you go.
Yeah.
You better wait a minute or two.
We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait a little bit. I think we're ahead of schedule, anyways.
All right, good.
He's gonna go on his phone while his computer is spinning his wheels.
And here he said his connection was so great.
Yeah, right. Now he's making up for it.
And Junior,
We're
are you
fortunate because
still
if you
on there?
live in Shalott and you're served by Waitsfield Facein, you've got fiber to your house. So that should work. But who knows? His kids are too young and he needs a 15.
Yeah, once they get to be gamers, then he'll have high-powered everything.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
It's crystal, crystal clear.
Oh, good.
Motion. And the second? What'd I miss?
Nothing. No. Yeah, we're waiting for you.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so is there a motion? And if people want, authorize the chair to sign?
Oh, they adjourned the meeting. Sorry. Just kidding.
So what do we need? A motion to submit the municipal highway grant application as presented with the adjustments. And does anybody want to have it just signed by the chair, or do they all want to sign it?
Chair's good.
So to be signed by the chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a second?
No second to that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Great. Trying to get my computer to behave here. Okay, let's see. Still on time. The 6:35 item, the budget austerity measures from this current fiscal year.
I just want to ask, did everyone get, Mary had sent out a update from today that's also on the packet for this meeting that's online. And I can add it up as a document if you want to screen share it.
I'm gonna go get my phone. I'll be right back so that I
Okay.
have it.
She also had some comments that she indicated in the email as far as some of the revenues we've seen and some expenses.
Dean, was that an email today?
It was, yeah. I think, yeah, she sent it to you directly.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't put my hands on my phone right this second, but that's all right.
It was at about 2 o'clock, a little bit after.
Dean, did you say that that was in the meeting packet?
Yeah, I did put it in the meeting packet,
And
yeah.
where would I find that?
I'll send you a link right now if you
Oh,
want.
thanks.
Does anyone else want it or need it?
All set.
Have it.
The update from on the budget. Lynn, I just sent it to you if you need it.
I'm in good shape. I have it from earlier today, Dean. Thanks.
Okay, great.
Is that the hard copy I received from you, Dean?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple things she just noted in the email. She said, of note in revenues, Thompson's Point rent should come in very close to the budgeted amount. We received our quarterly state highway funds over 50,000, which actually gives us 5,000 more than we had expected. Even though interest rates have unfortunately dropped, our interest revenue is up 21,000 through the end of March. She had a comment about senior center maintenance and the transfers to reserve funds.
I can answer senior center maintenance if you'd like me to.
Sure.
So we are over in maintenance. Our budget was 12,300 and we're at 15,000. So we're about 1,800, 1,700 over. I was looking, Dean sent me the details from Mary. We had some expenses, cleaning the carpet, $1,100, which we should have actually delayed that another couple of months into the next year, but cleaning the carpet and appliance repair, gasket and refrigerator was gone. Then while he was there, he updated the sterilizer, other appliances. So the 1,800 we're over are those two items, carpet cleaning and appliance. I believe we're going to be down on program expenses. So I believe for the fiscal year, we will be on our budget. It's not the 95 challenge, but I believe we'll be on our budget.
Sounds good. And did you get the gist of her comment about the transfer to funds? that we could hold back to make up any difference?
Yeah, I don't quite understand it actually. Because I think those were approved in the budget.
I mean, there's quite a few lines to read between there, but I'm guessing that it was insinuating that we have the authority to withhold the transfers that were approved last April. And that's because those transfers haven't technically happened on the books yet.
Is that related to the senior center or other things?
Transfer to reserve funds. Mary made a comment in her email that was another place to look. As far as
For some money, you mean?
for austerity, yeah.
Okay.
You know, the goal is to try and build up any amount of a surplus possible through austerity so that any possible shortfall in tax revenue we could make up by carrying over more than the, was it 5% that we retained?
Right.
For cash flow purposes from.
Oh, right. I remember that. Yes. Yep.
And then that's in setting the tax rate. So it can somewhat moderate any effect of a possible shortfall.
Are you going to be asking departments to make choices about this, or?
Last meeting, we talked about asking departments to look at a 5%.
Okay. Somehow we didn't find that out, but good to know.
But we also wanted to get more in the nuts and bolts of it tonight with a half an hour.
Okay.
And I think we had talked about not asking fire and rescue.
Mhm.
And as far as junior's budget,
Sure.
looking for 5% that wouldn't impact the safety of the transportation network. And he thought that might be possible through holding off on some paving, but that's really up to his discretion, is what the board said. Does that accurately sum it up so far?
Yeah, and I thought we have this, I thought the ash tree removal is in Junior's budget. And the question is, I mean, you know, and I think it's 20 grand. And whether or not it's feasible or it's wrong. I mean, it's just like deferred maintenance, whether we should or should not do that. Is Junior still on, or is he signed off?
Can I just make that a little more granular?
Sure.
So in the current fiscal year, it is in Junior's budget. And that was somewhat of a mistake.
Yes.
In the current fiscal year, a month ago, the select board authorized that contract to go forward.
Yeah.
The discussion at last meeting was to make up for kind of that timing mistake and looking back, how we could possibly be more conservative with the ash tree program would be in the budget that is going to be hopefully approved at the next vote in June 23rd. We just make a verbal commitment to hold off on that 20,000 that got pulled out of his budget and put it into the, what is it, in the tree warden's budget?
It's in the tree warden's budget.
So we just kind of, I think last meeting, you know, there was some semantics, but I think the intent is that we're going to hold off on a year of ash tree removal and have that 20,000 withheld if the budget's approved. Is that where everyone else landed with last meeting's discussion?
Yeah, that sounded right to me, Matt.
Okay.
And I'm fine with that.
The net effect to the taxpayer should be the same, although the optics and I think that piece about being, you know, considerate to the taxpayer, maybe we were a little late to the table on, but you know, it should be the same difference to the tax bill come November.
Can I ask a couple questions about the budget, and I think we're doing okay as far as library expenses go.
Margaret,
But,
can I just say for the record, Margaret Woodruff of the Charlotte Public Library. I mean, just for the minutes.
Oh, sorry. But we, as things open up, we're also looking at having the library start to open up, and one of the things we would need to do would be to make sure that staff and patrons were safe while that happened, and that might require some. We have the money in our budget, but I guess I would just like to know, is it okay to go ahead and spend that money? I'm looking to get a price on getting a plexiglass shield that could go in front of one of the checkout computers, to get some extra gloves and things like that to use by library staff. So just curious to know your thoughts about that. I haven't bought anything yet, and we haven't made any, there's no decisions made because we're trying to move very slowly, but this would be an important part of the information to have for sure.
You definitely have to buy all that stuff, Margaret, if you need it and feel comfortable, and that's what you want.
Okay, thanks.
That is good money. That's good money spent.
Yeah, well, it would be nice to be open, so
right.
But we want to make sure we do it the right way. So
And I agree with Carrie.
Okay.
And then not only that, but you're going to have to do the training too to operate.
Yeah, so I actually, you want me to say, I have a question about the training, which is not related to the budget. Can I ask that question now, or should
Sure.
I? So the information we got from the Department of Libraries was from the Vermont OSHA, and all that was a PDF, and then at the end of it, you get a certificate saying that you've read this PDF and you are now qualified to work in whatever workspace. But it sounds, Matt, like you're talking about something quite different. And I just quick emailed the state librarian to ask him, and he hasn't been able to help me. So can you clarify exactly what the training is that you signed up for?
Yeah,
Is
so
that something I should worry about doing, or is that a separate?
yes, every place that is going.
How do I sign up for that? I didn't get any information about
Yeah,
it.
let me send you the link.
Awesome.
And also, we have a lot of tenants who are getting the plexiglass shields put up,
Yep.
and we have a long-standing relationship with Glass Connections.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm
Great.
gonna send you Kim's contact info.
Oh, perfect.
You
That
can
would be
just
good.
say, yeah, Matt
Okay.
Krasnow,
Yeah.
sent along a referral, but
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
And somebody at the senior center should be doing this too.
Oh, that's a good point.
I
Yeah.
think Lane can talk about it, but I think they're thinking of an opening that's delayed a bit because the population is a bit more vulnerable.
Yeah, we're focusing more on exercising presentations through Zoom. I don't see, for us, meals, mahjong, card playing. I think it's going to be a while before we actually open up, and I'm not sure what we would use a kind of a plexiglass dividers for. I think we're going to be one of the last facilities that truly open up.
Yeah, I'm talking about just the training, not the materials for protection.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. When would I kind of missed the point then. Is going to be a training offered on this?
well, part of the conditions of being able to be open to the public moving forward is that there is a safety resource officer person who has been trained by the Department of Commerce or the Department of Health and Human Services. And I think the list of materials I have to review are 6 or 7 PDF documents, and then it's like a 4-hour training online. So the idea is one person has to do that for each organization, and then once they get a certificate, and then they're authorized to train all their employees or coworkers or whatever the facility's structure is from there.
I'm certainly happy to do that for the senior center.
Okay, I'll send you, there'll be a couple of, I'll send you the link.
Is the training online or in person, or how's it working?
It's online, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I don't know, Margaret, I would just double check with your contact at the state to see
Yeah.
if it's also, if it's industry specific or not.
Okay,
I guess.
yeah. Well, I feel like you can't have too much training at this point, but,
It's free, so, and a lot of good information.
yeah.
I'll
Thank
also
you.
share, what I learned, but.
And the one thing that Department of Libraries has asked us to do is appoint a health officer. So I believe that I am the health officer for the library, as far as that goes. That means I know where the gloves are and the hand sanitizer. At this point,
Sounds like
anyway.
it's
Maybe I'll know more later, but.
Almost sounds like the same thing you guys are talking.
Do you think we're going to have any hands left after this?
I know. Oh my God.
There's like, they're all destroyed by chemicals.
Either that or running them under the UV light and having them super tan. So I'm also just sending Lane and Margaret the link to all the training documents in case it's not required. At least you have, all these PDFs
Okay.
available to you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, other thoughts about austerity?
Yeah, just a kick in for the fire rescue. We had a board meeting last week, and they're doing their best to comply with the 5% reduction.
Wow.
Nothing's written in stone, but there's grants for the PPEs and grants from other safety precautions that they got going on. So they may very well be able to participate in the 5% reduction. So they're really on to writing grants, and they had a proposal, 4 different proposals for satisfying the 5% at the last meeting. So they're right on top of it. They really they want to participate. It's great.
That is great.
Yeah.
And I think, and maybe you all already know about this anyway, but came through on one of the many millions of library emails, that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns might have grant funding to make available to repay towns for PPE supplies and that kind of thing. So if I hear anything more, I'll let you all know, but I think it's going to be a not insignificant expense.
Matt, to be clear for me, you're talking about the fiscal year that we're in right now that ends June 30th, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I guess for town hall, it's probably a ways off too, but we might want to get a quote on plexiglass for the 2 counters.
Yeah.
Hey, Dean.
That's a good idea.
Matt,
Yes.
so I was just going to add my 2 cents. If they can't, if somebody can't take it out of this year's budget, the 5%, will it be taken out of next year's, like automatically?
We have not talked about next year's budget, but my personal sense is, yeah, austerity is going to have to go as long as this recession goes. I think that's the only responsible thing for the select board to be looking at.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Just to make it fair to everybody, if they can't take the 5% out of this year's, then I think it should come out of next year's.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah, I think that'll all work into the decisions of the select board in the future on what does and doesn't get done.
I just want to chime in. I think was that Frank that just spoke. I think the hard work is going to come next year. I think in a perfect world, which we don't live in, we would do strategic budget reductions, not across the board. I mean, that's a perfect world, and we don't live in that world. And that's a very hard lift because it involves going through and trying to figure out, well, what are our priorities for the town, and you know, how we're going to do it. So that's my 2 cents, and it was worth only a penny.
Penny saved is a penny earned.
That's good, man.
I think we had a conversation last meeting about wanting to make sure it was fair to everybody and every department. And we also had a quick conversation about if they couldn't pay it this year, we'll take it out of the budget next year. You know, I remember that. So I just think it's got to be fair. That's all.
And my question is, the senior center, the $8,000, when is that money? Where's that money from? In this year's budget or for next year?
As for the siding, that's in next year's budget, which is the next agenda item.
Okay.
I mean, the siding is repair of siding is the next agenda item. That was in the improvement and repair fund.
Any other thoughts or questions about the budget austerity measures for the current fiscal year?
Yep. Matt, how does that get implemented?
You know, one efficient way would be to have Dean send out an email to all the authorized purchasing agents, which are the chairs of all of the commissions, boards, and committees.
Didn't you already send one out?
Did they get that, Dean?
What's that?
Do committees and commissions and boards know about the 5%?
Not all of them, unless some of them called. But I actually thought that that you were drafting something. But
we'll send that out tomorrow. And
from you.
For me?
Is
From
that
the board.
okay.
From the board? From my email.
And will this be across the board, like you're looking at personnel as well as tangible expenses, or
Just
is it
bottom
up
line?
to the particular department to decide that?
Bottom line.
Okay.
So, Matt, the only thing we have left is 60 days to go. We have no maintenance, no extra things. So anything we have to go, our instructors pay and the director and the volunteer. And as I said earlier, I don't see us achieving it. If you challenge us next year, that's a different thing, but I don't see us achieving 95% this year.
Yeah, you know, I had a thought about that too. I just I didn't want to shake up the bottle too much, but you know, one idea is we could send a note saying the select board's requesting a spending freeze until July 1st. And if there are things that need to be spent, please send an email requesting to do so to the dean, and it'll be approved at the next select board meeting. You know, that way it's kind of easier to manage, and we'll find out in 2 weeks what must be spent by June 30th.
But
Except
you're
for
not,
Margaret's stuff for the library.
Yeah, I mean, the library really is autonomous in that they're in our budget, but the select board doesn't control their expenditures. The library board of trustees authorizes all expenditures.
But how can you, when you say freeze expenses, you don't mean salaries?
Any expenditures, non-payroll related.
Oh, non-payroll related, because we have to make sure that everyone who's on the payroll gets paid. Okay, I'm with you.
And that's right, all the budgets that the committees and the commissions have. It was another thought to kind of simplify it, and then we will get feedback from the committees and commissions on what priorities they think they can't do without until July 1st.
I think that's really a good approach, Matt.
Yeah, I think the priority has to be the safety of employees, the health and safety of employees. So apropos of what Margaret said about the library, that's basic number one from my perspective.
Yep, health, safety, and payroll aside, the select board's asking for is giving direction that there should be no expenditures until, any expenditures need to be approved by the select board.
So I guess just thinking ahead for planning and zoning, if the boards meet, then, if an application is submitted, they may need to warn a hearing, which goes into their under their advertising budget. So the zoning board is meeting on Wednesday to discuss whether or not to hold hearings in response to applications that were delayed or postponed in March. So
yeah, that's great. I'll add that advertising, that's statutorily necessary. Payroll and health and safety measures.
Okay.
Utilities and that kind of basic thing is, I mean, we have to pay our electric bill and that kind of thing as well.
All that fixed costs.
Right. So I sort of removed our payroll and ran a projection of our expenses, and the library will be fine if payroll is not included.
Great.
Payroll we don't have a whole lot of control over. So.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Margaret. Appreciate that.
I guess just one more exclusion if possible is the mowing contracts. Are those okay to proceed?
Yeah, those are not boards, commissions, or committees.
Okay.
Those are standing contracts.
Got it.
Yep. Okay. I will send that out tomorrow. Do people want to see a draft or just get a copy of it as it's sent out?
I'm fine with just a copy.
Okay, sounds good. Got it. Repair of the siding at the senior center?
Yeah, before everything's happening regarding the virus, we were thinking we would try to squeeze it in this year, but after further review, we actually have the siding in the budget for next year, and it's part of the senior center capital budget reserve. We had a lot of adjustments in January when we were making changes, and one of the things that's in there is the $8,000 for siding. So I've prepared a draft RFP for competition for Dean to review, and I would expect we would want to start that after July 1st, so there'd be no impact on our budget now.
And that is in the packet?
Yeah, well, it was actually the RFP that Lane drafted. I think I gave you a hard copy, Matt, and then for everyone else, I emailed it out because it came in. I didn't get it until today.
I I didn't even open it up to look at it, to be honest.
Okay, I do
I got
have
it
it in
so
the
late.
packet.
There's an estimate in the packet, though?
Oh, that there is, yeah, from Steve Denton, Peter Denton rather, from last October.
Yes, he gave us an estimate, so that's what was in our budget, actually. I think it's is it 8,000?
Yeah.
Yes, 8,000.
What's the senior center budget for next year for maintenance?
In
This year?
the capital reserve, we have 8,000 in for the siding and 4,000 to replace the air conditioning unit. So that's capital reserve. And in our budget, which I'm looking at the town report, page 19 of 182, our maintenance budget for the coming year is $16,000.
Thank you.
Lane, I see on the draft request for bids that it says bid selection. The select board intends to select a contractor at the select board meeting on May 18th, the same night that we're opening the bids.
Well, yes, kind of. That's a notional date. If it needs to be changed, change it. I was just thinking that we've done in the past with paving. You know how you open the bids at the start of the meeting, and then you can either choose to review it and then come back 2 weeks later and select. You know, whatever your choice is. Those are just notional, and I took it off another bid that we had done previously. That's the way you did it.
Got it. Yeah, I think based on the scope of work, it might be pretty easy to compare them, but it might we might benefit from having that 2 weeks till the next select board meeting to get Dean to put up a comparison for us.
Yeah. Since we're not going to start until after July 1st, it's fine.
Okay. So May 18th is a regular selected.
Actually, it's not. The meetings in May are the 11th is the second Monday, and then the 26th is a Tuesday because the Memorial Day is the fourth Monday, 25th. So I guess if we wanted to advertise, I think we're supposed to advertise it for 2 weeks, and we probably can't get it into this week's Citizen because that comes out on Wednesday. So we would get it into next week's Citizen, which comes out the 6th. And then it would be, I guess it would be 15 days if you said the deadline is the 26th. Actually it would be 20 days. So you could say the deadline is the 26th and have the opening on that meeting, and then the selection could be the 8th of June.
Okay. That still puts us in.
Yeah, whatever works for you, Dean, in your schedule. That's
Okay.
fine with us.
Yeah. That's the scope of work is that.
Wasn't it customary to withhold 10% until satisfactory completion? That's something Fritz always put in there.
He did have a retainage for the library, for sure.
So under payment schedule, I see materials to be paid upon submission of invoices, labor to be paid upon the completion. Oh, and written acceptance. Okay, so I guess that's more than 10%.
Right. Yeah.
And that written acceptance would basically be the signing of the warrants where the labor is submitted? Or is it an actual document?
I mean, when there's been someone, say select board member in charge of reviewing it, or perhaps someone from the senior center that could say, okay, we feel this was completed as per the contract. I guess an email really is sufficient, and then that allows the contractor to submit the invoice.
For the labor piece.
Right.
I mean, I think the people who know the most about what they want to see achieved would be, Lane and Carl.
Yeah, we'll do it in writing, probably through an email saying we found it acceptable. And if not acceptable, we go back to the contractor. So we don't have to get too involved until it's accepted. If Dean wants to oversee or anybody else, that's fine.
People good with that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Great. Site visit Tuesday, May 5th. We'll just have to observe, the latest guidelines for people meeting 6 feet apart right now and everyone wearing a face mask.
Sounds good.
Is it going to all be outside?
Yes, 100% outside. Yeah.
Great.
I might suggest just pushing that out a little bit because of the publication won't be until the 6th actually. So I think we can probably do the site visit perhaps a week later, but I'll schedule that with you, Lane.
Yep. Yeah, make sure it works for us. Yes.
But to be COVID-19 compliant.
That's great. Any other comments?
Well, thank you from the senior center. I don't think there's anything more on the agenda for us.
Okay, do we want to formally approve the request for bids to go out?
Probably.
As amended?
Oh, you want a motion?
Yeah.
Motion to approve the request for bids for replacement and repair of trim and siding at the Charlotte Senior Center as amended, to be signed by the, just to be sent out.
To be advertised.
Yep, to be advertised.
I'll second that. Thank you, Frank.
Just one more copy edit. The third line from the top, add an E to replace.
You're good. Our English major.
Also, if select board members have any thoughts about any particular contractors they want this sent to, they can let me know. We have a few in mind, but we can always, we'll advertise it, but also we can send out hard copy or send it out by email or hard copy.
Great. Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, great. Thanks, Carl and Lane.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Little early. Lori's here. Request for a proposal for the construction of a path along State Park Road. Does everyone have the copy?
Yes, I do, and I've reviewed it. And I want to congratulate Lori and her team for putting together something that's in good shape. The only question I have, and it's a really critical one, is who, where does the who signs off on this? And Matt, you're way ahead of me on this one, but that is the clerk of the works or whoever. And I'm happy to help, but I'm incompetent on these issues. So the question is, hi there, sweetie. So we need someone who's competent to make sure that this is down the road a bit. When we've accepted a proposal, we need someone who's going to basically be able to sign off that the work has been done properly. And Laura, you and I have talked about this. And so I'm not sure who that is. Where's Franz when we need him? Fritz when we need him? We just need someone who's got that competence
Jim,
to look at the product and say, yeah, it's a good job.
Jim,
Yeah.
don't you have the ability to oversee something like that?
Yeah, I've been involved in trail maintenance before.
Right.
So, yeah, I have a good idea about it if you want me to take a look at it.
Well, we just need someone who's going to look at the product and say, yeah, it's good, it meets everything, and sign off.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Wow, thanks, Jim. That's super. That's amazing.
And how is this going to be coordinated with the building of the trail and the boardwalk that's supposed to be built by others? And what does that entail?
The boardwalk, Jim Donovan wrote that it was a boardwalk, and I guess it's called a boardwalk, but I guess I would call it a small bridge or a boardwalk, whatever you want to call it, over one particular area. And that is something that the Trails Committee would build.
And just for the minutes, this is Lori Thompson talking from the Trails Committee.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay, I was just wondering how this was going to coordinate, because they got to build the trail so that it meets up with the boardwalk. The boardwalk's not, or whatever, the bridge is not there right now. Is it going to be there before any work is done so that it can be incorporated easily, or is it going to be something that's going to be put in afterwards? And what is the expense to the town, if any?
Right. If the RFP gets approved, the Trails Committee can start building the boardwalk in the next couple months. So it would be ready and there prior to doing the trail, although I think we could put it down to show whoever is going to do the trail, but I think it might make sense to actually hold off putting it down until the trail is completed. So they can work right up to either side of the boardwalk.
That sounds good to me. That sounds like the right way to do it.
And did you have a suggested design and the materials for the railing? And what are the bollards? Are they removable because they can be taken down for winter? Is that the reasoning why those are removable?
Yes. One of the times when we walked this area, Junior specifically requested that we get removable bollards so that when he does the snow plowing, he doesn't have to worry about, getting close to the trail, and he can just really clean that all of State Park Road, even across Kimball Brook, and not worry about the bollards messing up, the snow removal situation.
I can speak about the railing. This is David Ziegelman. It was recommended by several people who have a lot of experience with this to actually not specify the railing. We expect the people filling out the RFP to specify how they would like to do the railing and what the cost would be. And so we left that up to them, and we'll make a decision about which one makes the most sense. So that was our approach.
Oh, okay, but if you decide which one makes the most sense, let's just say that the lowest bid had a metal one and the next one up, or the highest bid, had a wooden one that looked really nice. Why wouldn't we kind of request that the materials be somewhat the same so that we can compare apples to apples?
Right. I mean, it's a reasonable point. I think the idea was, let's let the bidders specify what they would do and take that into account, what materials they're using, what the design is. So,
And I'm just wondering if you would want to make that a separate, kind of like a separate part of the bid.
we could.
They could choose what the materials they want to make it out of, but I mean, it would be a separate part of the bid, where if, of course, who knows what would run into with somebody not getting the bid for the path, but getting the bid for the railing, I think would be weird.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think you want to have it all together, just one bid. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, on the one hand, I think you do see a lot of wooden rail, but in other places you do see metal rail. Maybe some people who have done trails work before are more competent working or feel more comfortable working with metal versus wood. But I understand your point about the cost and the cost differential. So
well, it's not just the cost differential, it's the cost differential with what the Trails Committee or the town would prefer for the railing. Like I said, if you have we'll say a basic square metal railing that gets put in, but it's the best price we can find, do we take that, is that a consideration in taking or not taking that particular bid?
I think definitely. I think that the overall cost, the longevity of it, the aesthetic appeal, how it looks aesthetically, those are all things that we would have to take into account. The key thing is that at least the folks who are pretty knowledgeable about this recommended that we leave it up to them, so we can have several ones to choose from rather than specifying it ourselves.
Okay.
Another area that we didn't get into every detail was the drainage for the trail. There are some culverts in already of some known areas that will need drainage, but there's some areas that need some drainage solutions. And we want to see what they suggest rather than saying every foot of the way, here's what you got to do, here's what you got to do. Because some trail contractors are meticulous in the way they look at every bit of drainage as they go, and some aren't. So we'll see what they come up with. So that's another area.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. Section H, the pre-proposal site visit seems to be optional currently. I think that needs to be mandatory for any project of this scope, size, and specificity.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I would agree with you, Matt. Anybody that is kind of worth their salt, I would say, would want to go and visit the site prior to, putting in a bid. So
Yeah, and for me, selecting a contractor, anyone who thinks that they could eyeball that without seeing it isn't going to be selected, regardless of their qualifications.
Right. I would agree with that. I think we could make that change and just say a site visit is necessary, or however you want to word that, necessary. Yeah.
I guess there's two ways I've seen the site visits with bigger bids. One is setting a date that they have to show up for the site visit, and then every contractor hears the same story because conversations are fluid. And then you don't get into, they all go back, they have individual meetings with different people from maybe one site visit was one contractor's with a Trails Committee member, another one's with Dean, another one's with a select board member. and then there's a he said, she said when they come up with their proposals. Whereas if it could even be two different dates and times, if people have a hard time making a certain time, but
have the same person go through with each group
Yeah.
and say the same things. That makes sense.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you could, you want to set a date and time now, just so or do you want to come back with one that works?
Well, I think that we need to see when this is going to go out to bid, and then kind of like the last RFP, once we figure that out, then we could set those dates.
Would there be a select board member that wants to be included in the site visit that we could schedule that with? So that, say we have one select board member, one or two trails committee members, and myself. Or
I'm the liaison. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, and maybe if Jim's going to do the inspection, maybe Jim as well.
Yeah, I would suggest that I attend anyways, but welcome any company who wants to come.
This is Margaret. I just have a question about RFPs in general. Is that a norm process to get all the bidders together at the same time to review a project?
At the big ones, it has been.
Yeah, we've done that for several.
Okay.
And they're pretty used to that.
Okay.
So, Dean, do you want to figure out when
Sure.
Jim and Louise can do it, and then maybe set those dates, have those be the two dates when?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, based on what the timing of the advertisement and whatnot. I just want to go back and comment just on one thing. As far as the criteria for selection, the way it's written, and this was intentional. The criteria is our qualifications and not cost, unless there are two proposals that are within 10 points of each other. So I just want the select board to understand that.
Where did that come from? It doesn't come out of our purchasing policy.
It does not.
Yeah, I wondered where the points came from.
I mean, on the last one for the senior center, you have a bid selection part, and that looks like it mimics our purchasing policy, but this has the selection criteria, which is nowhere but here.
Yeah, I think this was used in part on a previous project, but I think price was also a criteria. So there were qualifications such as these, and then also cost was a consideration.
Well, it's a consideration in our purchasing policy anyways.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would strike all of that and have the town's purchasing policy be the selection criteria. It's an exhaustive document, and if we want to come up with a new way or a new system or metrics for selecting bidders, that should be a process independent of an RFP.
Update our policy if that's the way.
That's what I mean. I think it's a heavier lift than putting something novel into a town's RFP.
Matt,
some background.
This is Jim Donovan speaking.
Yes. Do you want some background? Basically, when I got this review, the previous ones had been set up as qualification based. So you're selecting somebody on their qualifications rather than on their cost. You're selecting somebody on your qualifications. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, something just occurred to me. If you're selecting somebody on qualifications, and this is the part I totally forgot about because I'm so used to it, and you're using at least federal, I'm not sure if it's federal, but it's either federal and or government or just federal, so we have to check that. You cannot use cost. You have to base it solely on qualifications, because this is a request for proposals. It is not a bid. There's a difference. If you want to have a bid, based on money, then call it a bid. If you're asking for a proposal, then you're looking at qualifications and how well people do things, and you're making sure your selection on the qualification rather than funds. And funds only come in when you can't decide because of qualifications. That's why this is written this way. Now, I don't know, I have to go back and check to see whether that applies to all government contracts or just government contracts that use federal funds, but it's a federal law that requires that. So that's something we will have to check.
Yeah,
This is written this way.
that would be good. And I always wondered what the difference was. Everyone always seems to make requests for bids and requests for proposals an interchangeable thing.
Yeah, they're not.
In that case, I would switch this to a request for bids would be my preference, so that the town has the latitude to select cost as well, like we do with all contracts over $5,000.
And as long as, and I haven't looked closely at the town's policy, but as long as the town's policy doesn't mandate going with the cheapest one,
it does not.
Then that would be fine. That would be fine, because you don't necessarily want to go with the expensive one because it might not give you what you want in the end.
Yeah, and actually, the purchasing policy clearly gives the town the latitude to not select the lowest bidder, even though politically there's always a lot of pressure to do that.
Yeah.
In particular.
So we would take this selection criteria out and use the selection criteria for the town and call this a request for bid instead of request for proposal. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, and I think, the last paragraph of that in somewhat mirrors, some of the purchasing policy. I don't know if it's verbatim, but it's pretty close. But Dean, you could probably pull up the request for bids from the library, which was, another big project, and just look at that selection criteria section.
That was pretty extensive. But yeah, or another project, yeah.
Do we have the last trails one?
I'm sure we do. Yeah. You mean right now, or?
No, just to look at what the last request for bid for that $90,000 section was.
Right. Yep.
I noticed that. I also noticed, as far as the dates go, section F, the project area will be ready for work by July 1st. And I'm only asking that because
it says June 1st.
But the bids aren't even going to be due until June 1st, and they won't be opened until June 6th or June blank.
Yeah, that date can be changed. I mean, the bids will come back by June 1st, and certainly we would be I think the area would be ready, but until we choose who is going to do the work, nothing would happen, right? So.
Right. And then I thought, well, maybe it was supposed to be July 1st because of the fiscal year and having that 57,000, approved before we went ahead with construction.
Well, the 57,000 has nothing to do with State Park Road. The State Park Road funds are already in the reserve fund. So the
100%?
Right, the 50, this has nothing to do with our next year's budget at all. So we wouldn't have to worry about that.
The town has 100% of what you think it's going to cost to do this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you want to change that just so that it's after the bid selection date?
How about June 15th? Should we go to June 15th at least?
Bid selection.
Well, when are the select board meetings?
In June, they are on the 8th and the 22nd. So the proposals could be opened I mean, I guess it might as well be, the deadline might as well be the same date that they're being opened, which in June would be the 8th.
Or the 22nd.
Well, the 22nd, I would think we would select it if we opened it on the 8th, so that we have that 2 weeks for Dean and the Trails Committee to put together, you know, a cost analysis comparison.
Right.
So then we could say the project area will be ready for work by July 1, because,
I would think.
right, nothing's going to happen before then anyway, so,
Not really.
yeah, okay. Yes.
That seems to be more of a practical date, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so then to be considered proposals or bids, depending if we change it, must be received by the town by 4 p.m. on Monday, June 8th.
Right.
Right.
Do we want to make that like the last bid we just approved for the senior center for 6 o'clock? Because we'll be opening it at the select board meeting.
Yes. So change it from 4 to 6? Is that what
Yeah.
you're?
And then for the senior center, the bid opening is at 6:02.
Mhm.
So if they're
Do we
dropping
need-
off, they can be there for the opening too.
Do we need to be 6:03 then?
Oh no, that's on May 18th.
Oh, okay.
So on the schedule, the project schedule, so we're gonna put on I would put on something like the project will be completed between like July 1st and October 31st, 2020, instead of the work project area will be ready for work.
Sounds good.
And did we want to have a time frame? Did we want to have a number of days or a certain amount of time period that it would be done? As in, would it take a week? Would it take a week? Would it take 2 weeks to do this?
I'd leave it up to the contract. Well,
That's what I mean. Put it in the RFP or proposal, bid proposal for the time frame that it would take. Like we did the trees, they said they'd get it done between 5 to 6 days. Why couldn't this be
oh,
not that it has to be set in stone, but would it be advisable to put in to have them give us a time frame that it would take them to do the job?
But does it really matter if they're not closing the road? Doesn't matter how long it takes.
Well, they may not be closing the road, but they're definitely going to have part of the road shut down at times.
and
Yeah.
who's doing the traffic control for that?
If there needs to be, that would be in there. That should be added.
And the only thing I would say, Frank, is that, I mean, I think overall it certainly shouldn't take more than normally than a couple of weeks. maybe.
You broke up there, Lori.
Oh, can
Your
you
audio.
hear me now?
Your audio is good. Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't seem like it would take more than a month to do this project. And thinking back to co-housing, probably not more than 2 weeks, really. But one of the things that, and I don't know if this is going to happen or not either, but one of the people that we're going to put it out to bid with is somebody who's also working at Mount Philo State Park and doing the trails there. So if they have all their equipment and they have to kind of go and do something at the state park and then come back and do ours for a little bit and then go do the state park, I don't know if that might make it more than a month.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering, if we could get to wonder if this would be something that we'd want to try to have the proposal say, how many consecutive days would this take? Do we really want to have them taking from, and we'll have no choice over it, from July 1st to October 31st and working on it a day here, a day there.
Yeah. The other thing with this particular type of a project is if we get 2 weeks of rain, that could create a real problem for whoever is doing it. So that's something to think about. And I don't know if this is something we should put in the request for bid or not, but I also think about COVID-19 and what would happen if they got halfway through this and we went into another lockdown or something. I don't know.
Or their crew got sick, and people are on mandatory, isolation or quarantine.
Right.
Well, I know that's true, but I'm just saying that could be negotiated later, saying that, because of certain things, it may need to be stopped and restarted because of a state order or something. But I was just trying to figure out just a time frame that it would take to do the job, and hoping that it would be within a straight time frame instead of broken up so bad through 3 months.
Right. Well, we could certainly say within a month, and then within any contract, I guess it would be good to specify that, weather-related issues or, health issues might make it longer. When you actually in the contract that they sign or something. I don't know.
Why was 5 months picked as a time frame for construction?
I think it was just that's the construction season, basically.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't that it has to take 5 months.
This is Jim, and I would suggest that possibly you may want to not necessarily specify a time, but say that once the work is started, it should continue in one block of time, unless the town grants a waiver or whatever if something comes up, like weather or COVID-19 or whatever. But
there could be supply issues too.
Yeah, once you start, you work on it until you get it done, and then that also addresses Frank's concern as well, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
This is Jonathan, one of the property owners here, as well as one of the potential bidders on this. And I would just caution that that sort of approach is going to probably force the bid into some of the larger companies, which is going to carry additional cost. It might be worth considering leaving it more open-ended for now, just to allow people that have sort of smaller operations to leverage, to contribute the lower cost possibility to this. Just a thought.
This is Jim. One of the metrics we used in that ash tree project was the length of time. We had a lot of conversation about the length of time it took. And I agree with Frank. I mean, I think you should set a time period that it has to be done, the length of time. It'll be a disruption to a state park road, no matter how you look at it, and try to limit that as much as possible.
To both of your points, we could do it similarly to the ash tree and ask the contractor to say what time frame they think they can do it in, and then that would be part of our consideration with cost and reputation and qualifications of what's most desirable for the town.
Good idea too.
Yeah, that's
feels
fine,
right.
and I agree with once they start the project to finish it in that single timeline. I'm not trying to restrict the timeline to say they have to have it done in a week or they have to have it done in 2 weeks. They could say their timeline is 2 months and say it's going to be done in 2 months, but I'd like to see, or within that 2 months, but I'd like to see a time frame of when it starts, that they work on it until it's done.
So you want them to submit a project schedule? Because I see that all the time in our jobs.
In a way, I think yes.
And that could be
I don't think it has to be right down to specifics, minutes, but general time frames.
Yeah, site prep 1 week. It could be 1 week for one company. It could be 3 weeks for another company, and then they could break it out, what they think their timeline would look like. We
So
could
this
ask
is
for that.
Margaret. I'm just thinking about the previous two sections that we did. And I think we have to be a little careful about boxing some of these workers in, because, sometimes they have simultaneous jobs going. They have people on this job and people, one job and people on another, and they're moving equipment, and then there's weather. So I just want to be careful we're not being too demanding, and then not, and that's going to limit our options.
And is that open-ended idea where they tell us what they
I like
think their
that
schedule
idea.
would look like?
I think that's a really good idea.
Okay.
Matt,
Yes?
it's Junior.
Yep.
Hey, I was just going to say, after from what Margaret just said, the only thing different from the last two is a lot of this work is right beside State Park Road, where I don't know if anybody's been by the state park, but there is a lot of cars in there. So there's a lot of traffic on that road. So I think the sooner it can be done, the less impact it's going to have on the traffic there. I think a lot of that work is going to be done from the road, at least the parts that's right beside the road, all along down what they call the Four Meadows there or whatever. That's all going to be done basically from the road. And then once you get down in a dip, you're back on the road again. You just got the two little spots that you're off the road. So I really think you guys, kind of like the ash trees, that you got to pay a little bit of attention to how long it's going to take somebody to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Junior. You're right. This is a different project that's right on the road.
Yeah, that's the only concern that I have. And I think they're going to have traffic control, whoever's going to be doing it, because I think a lot of their work is going to be done from the road. They're going to have it down to one lane traffic.
Okay, so add a component in for traffic control the same way as we did the ash trees.
I would say, unless, I think it depends on the bidders, maybe they're going to be doing it off-road, but I think down that section where it's right next to the road, that they're going to be working off the road. They're going to be working right from the road.
I just had something that we're doing on any documents that we can is removing binary gender designations. So in section K under the contract, I would just recommend that we replace the he, she with the word they, and then change agrees to agree.
Okay.
Okay.
I think there's been enough moving parts of this. It'd be good if we could approve this on the next select board meeting, May 11th, if people are okay with that.
One more chance to look at it revised.
Yeah. Yep. That sound good?
Are we clear what we want to do with the time frame? Are we asking them to tell us what their time frame would be?
I think we have consensus on an estimated time frame.
Okay.
How long it would take to complete, I think, versus when they think they would finish.
Okay.
I'm sorry I had some disconnection. How did the traffic control subject turn out?
The contractor will be responsible for traffic control wherever it's needed. I think we also should add a schedule for payment. How we want that, ask them, we could ask them how they want to be paid, or we could specify, a certain amount up front for materials and then labor at the end or something like that.
I feel like the last trails one, the big trails one, was a third, a third, a third. That's how a lot of road work contracts are. And the last third is, upon satisfactory completion.
What's the second third?
Usually pays for labor.
What's the timing of
a
it?
third upon commencement that gets, materials paid for.
Yeah.
A third at some point during the project, midway through a project. I guess that would be based on their estimated time of completion. And then a third upon satisfactory completion.
Okay.
Julianne?
Hey, thank you. So just a quick question. So the funds would be paid for this project are paid out of the Trails Reserve Fund that's already fully funded for this project, just to confirm.
I think your audio broke up there a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you restate where the funds are coming from? The Trails Reserve Fund, and that's fully funded for the project?
The Trails Reserve Fund is an established reserve fund, and money from that was put in both through donations and from the town allocation, which is voted on in the budget every year.
Okay. In this section is anticipated to be fully funded from existing funds. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Do we know how much is in the reserve?
Dean can probably tell you. Last I heard it was about 67,000, but it might be higher than that right now.
And kind of the ballpark estimate for this trail?
I imagine probably around 60.
Actually, in the fund right now is 78,000.
Oh. We did well with fundraising this year. So yes, we had a good year.
Okay, any other questions? Well, looks great. Glad everything's moving forward, and we'll look to approve this at the next meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you too.
Thank you from Trail.
Thanks, Lori and David. Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure.
Take care.
Jim too.
Yeah.
Let's see, 7:30. Green Mountain Bicycle Club requests to use southerly portion of Greenbush Road for the time trials on May 14th, June 18th, and July 16th.
Kevin is here. Kevin Bissett.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Bissett from the Green Mountain Bicycle Club. I'm actually the president, and I've been leading, coordinating the time trials for half my life now, for about 25 years. Some of you may remember me. Dean remembers me.
And since you're only 20 years old, that's only 10 years. Okay.
Yeah. Brownie points. Anyway, I'm requesting usage of Greenbush Road for 3 bicycle events this summer. Before I begin, I just want to say that these will not happen until the CDC lifts the recommendation on social distancing, and also Governor Scott is okay with groups gathering. So once we've got the pandemic behind us, I'm requesting usage of Greenbush from basically south of the intersection of East Humptons Point down to Route 7 and back. And these are, okay, I still have the screen here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna put up your map, but keep on talking, Kevin.
Yeah, so basically these bicycle events are time trials, and it's one rider starts every 1 minute, and so there's no packs riding on road or anything like that. And I'll have cones set up at the start area. So in this map here, the bottom green arrow or pointy, that's where the start location is. Actually, if you scroll up a little bit, Dean, to the actual satellite view.
Sorry, okay, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So that bottom green arrow, that's actually the start location of the event. And then it finishes maybe about 100 feet up the road to separate the start and finish areas. We have parking down by the railroad tracks off from Thompson's Point Road. You'll see that P symbol. Robert Mack has agreed to let us park there again. And thank you very much to him. And let's see here. I was informed by Bill Fraser Harris today that actually there's a bunch of stuff in that parking area. So and he thinks that it's probably not possible to park here. Anything about that. So we'll have to play that as it comes. I'm pretty positive that we're not going to be having our first event on May 14th. In case the parking doesn't work out, an alternate parking spot could be at the park and ride down by the railroad tracks on Ferry Road. It's also possible I could contact I forgot what the business name is, but they hold events there. It used to be a place with outdoor music and stuff like that.
The Old Lantern?
Yeah, the Old Lantern. I definitely would contact the owners of that place to see if it'd be okay parking cars there. Typically, the events, the three events again are May 14th, June 18th, and July 16th. Each is on a Thursday. The start time for the events is 6:30. I anticipate people being there anywhere between 5:30 and 8 p.m. And I'm responsible for making sure there's no trash and all that stuff. And also, as far as safety goes, there would be three big yellow signs warning motorists of the event. And as I mentioned, there'd be cones at the start area to separate riders from cars. Riders are required to be gathered in a small parking area that's just off Greenbush by the start area. And that is it. Any questions?
Matt may have taken a hiatus. So Frank, I don't know if you want to lead.
I've got a question or two. One, I don't see a signature from the fire and rescue.
Yeah, it was sent to them. Kevin had sent it to Dick St. George, and then I sent it to Rob Mullen. So you could perhaps, if inclined to approve this, contingent upon their approval, but they have approved it in years past.
And if you can't use the parking lot that's there, and you say you're going to try to use either the Old Lantern or the train station, how do the bikes get from there to the start line? And if so, are you going to have somebody for traffic up the road, like on Ferry Road and Greenbush Road?
There's really, typically there's 20 to 30 cyclists that do this event. It has been declining through the years. There hasn't been any need for traffic control in the past. So basically they would ride from the parking location and just ride to the venue. And then after they complete the event, ride back to the car. And some people actually ride from home, and there's other people that park in other locations.
I was just wondering because usually that's the Ferry Road and Greenbush Road is a pretty blind intersection.
Mhm. Yeah, well, for one thing, I stress for riders of, any when they're at any time trial, any GMBC event, Green Mountain Bicycle Club, that they, follow the rules of the road and be courteous. And I would definitely stress that if even more so if we have to park, down by the railroad, or I'm sorry, down at the park and ride.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
It's Junior. I think they're going to be able to park. They'll be able to park, I think, at the Robert Max. Mainly, it's just where the stuff is piled there is kind of along the roadside and inside the hedgerow. But usually where they park is kind of straight in, and then it opens up to a field. So I think what cars they're going to have plenty of room to park there.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a pretty big field there.
Sounds good.
Also, I'm waiting for the club treasurer's going to be getting a certificate of insurance, and once I get that, I'll forward it to Dean so he can have it on file. So making, if I have it correctly, making the town of Charlotte payable on the certificate.
Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you. I had to exit the bedtime zone. Are there any other questions about the application? Bill, have you seen it?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I have, and as in previous years, Kevin has been totally abiding by our requests, by the town requests, and I brought to his attention today that the field that was a concern to me as I drove by, knowing that he uses that area. He's got his bases covered, and he runs a good operation. I think, as he said, it's probably not going to happen in May anyway. And with the number of cyclists, it's really not that unusual on a normal day now in Charlotte. We've got a lot more cyclists on our roads now than we have previously, and I don't think his time trial is going to make that much of a difference to our cycling traffic. Thank you.
I think this is about the 30th year that we've actually had time trials in Greenbush Road now.
Sounds good. I'll make a motion to approve the Green Mountain Bicycle Club time trials for May 14th, June 18th, and July 16th.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the dates again?
May 14th, June 18th, and July 16th.
And I understand that you might not be able to do the one May 14th.
Yes,
Because-
but I'm gonna approve it anyways.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm gonna put it in the motion anyways.
Well, when is the makeup day for that if they can't do it for May 14th?
That's yet to be determined. There may not be one. If there is one, I'll work with Dean. Yeah, the whole, obviously the whole season is up in the air right now, but these are the dates that I've selected, or I asked for right now.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Was there a second?
Louise? Seconded, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and please stay healthy.
Stay for the vote, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, thank you. And have a good
You don't see me blushing, do you?
You look like a Zoom veteran.
Yeah, thanks. It's all you, Dean. All right, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Contracts to be renewed or to go out to bid. Dean, you wanna?
Sure. So I just put together a list of contracts that typically renew on the fiscal year. Some don't renew on the fiscal year, but basically, unless there's a reason to go out and bid, some of these are structured to just renew automatically. So I guess one small one that's not on this list is we usually have an agreement with Comfort Hill to take stray dogs, and that's for $600, and that usually renews on July 1st. So just to go through these quickly, the water system maintenance for the town hall and library, we did go out to bid 2 years ago on that, and Lincoln Applied Geology won that one, and they actually were the previous contractor on prior to that, and they actually came down in price. And the landfill monitoring is something we've done for ever since the landfill closed on Plouffe Lane. We're required to do that for the state, and actually lately it has required PFOA testing. And Lincoln Applied Geology has been doing it since the beginning. I don't know quite how they were selected. That was before my time. Computer network support Tech Group was selected 2 years ago. Police services, Vermont State Police. Minutes taker, great work by Lynn Monty. Wastewater design review, that's to support the wastewater permitting that's done through the zoning administrator. Lammer and Dickinson has one of their employees, Brian Trembach, is a soil scientist and reviews permits. He reviews permits that Daniel drafts, and then he comments on. So he's been, I think, an asset in terms of helping Daniel to understand the process and what's needed for that. He also, when we're not in the coronavirus situation, goes out and reviews test pits in the field.
That one.
Sorry, go ahead.
That one's billed to us though, hourly, right?
Yeah, right. So well, it's there are some fixed fees. Like if you were to go out on a site visit, based on the fee schedule, I think it's a flat $250 or something like that.
But what I mean is, we're not spending $15,000.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, that's actually true for. I mean, it's certainly true. For like police services is the same. We're only billed like this year. I think we've spent $9,000 so far. So it's based on the service. It's not a flat fee. Tech Group is a monthly flat fee. That's the computer network support.
The
landfill is based on the actual time, but they're usually pretty close to their estimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And may I ask a question about computer network?
Yeah.
Support? Because I raised this issue before, and I believe the folks showed up. The big question is who is going to be accountable in case there is their systems are hijacked, and are we really confident that that we've done this right? And again, this is not in my area of expertise, but I think it's a real important question. They came to a meeting, and I think we were satisfied. But is there anything in the contracting that holds them accountable?
I guess it depends upon what you mean by holds them accountable.
What I mean by that is that they've guaranteed to protect us against ransomware.
Right. And, I guess just to flesh that out a little bit, say we're held ransom, our computer's held ransom, who knows what the cost is? I'll just throw out $100,000. Does that mean Tech Group pays that 100,000? No, probably not.
Well, okay, and this is, I think this is, when they came and we asked those questions,
Yeah.
the answer I got was that we could not be held for ransom because we had sufficient backup.
Right.
Did I misunderstand that?
I think what I understood from that conversation was yes to that point, but he also put in that caveat that the main susceptibility to any organization
Is the people.
Is the people making the mistakes.
No, I got it. I understand that. Okay.
So it may be that we ask, everyone who uses a computer on the town network to get a training from them.
Yeah, he did actually say timing wise, but I think it was today with a program with security awareness and self-help training services, which I'm guessing is probably remote, but he did provide a proposal which I haven't actually looked at. That was totally coincidental because I haven't been in touch with him about that.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that, particularly now that we've got appropriately have folks working remotely. So, yeah.
Right. I can forward, I'll forward this to you, and we can put it on a future agenda. As far as the additional training at this point, it looks like $1,700, $1,720. It's through Knowledge Wave Learning Site Services, which they do a bunch of different types of training. So we can talk about this at a future meeting. It could be worthwhile to do this kind of training.
Dean, do you know if we're insured by VLCT against this type of fraud?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I can find out.
Yeah, and maybe we look into how much a rider would cost.
Right. Yep, I'll check into that.
Awesome, thank you.
I just had one other question.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Thompson's Point wastewater operator and the engineer, those dollars are assigned directly to the folks at Thompson's Point who utilize the wastewater system.
That's correct. It's in the budget. Yep, that they pay for. Correct. Exactly. Yep. I'm not sure anything jumps out too much here. I guess just the property valuation grand list through, people use the term NEMRIC. It stands for New England Municipal Resource Company, something like that. They do, they provide the service to a lot of towns. The fact that we're going to an assessor, I don't think really changes that. Potentially, if the position of assessor changes, it could change it somewhat, but I think Betsy has recommended that we kind of maintain things as they currently are right now. So any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question on these annual contracts. How often do they go out for bid?
Yeah, it kind of varies. There are some that have gone out to bid more, obviously more recently and more perhaps regularly than others. Some like Nemrick, I don't think they ever went out to bid. They're sort of, they're definitely the big dog in the state. They're not the only dog in the state. And actually, there was another firm that was just selected to work with the state on developing, the software to monitor for the education portion of the tax, education tax and whatnot. So, I guess it varies, Jim. Based on what we found to be a need. For example, police services, we have had the Chittenden County Sheriff do police services. We've had the Shelburne Police do police services. And I think in the last time we looked at it, there was a consideration for also for Heinsberg. But I guess Matt was involved in the ultimate selection or the discussion with both Shelburne and Heinsberg and Vermont State Police. And it seemed that Vermont State Police came out in terms of the overall package that I think Shelburne was looking for overhead at that point, in addition to the labor that kind of put them over the top.
So basically, just you send it out to bid if there was a need to do things, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, basically that's right.
Yeah, I mean, don't fix it; it's not broken. I mean,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, unless there is a sense that, yeah, I mean that's true. You know, if something hasn't gone out to bid in a real long time, and there's a sense that there are other vendors out there, that would be a reason to go out to bid.
Yep. Okay.
Is there a reason why we don't have legal on here?
Oh.
You know, I don't know. Is we actually? I mean, they are a preferred vendor. That's. Although some of these others are preferred vendors too. We don't that I'm aware of. We don't actually have a contract. I mean, we have kind of a. I'm not even sure. Yeah, that we have a specific agreement. You know, I think there is a legal status when a town attorney is selected, that they represent a town. Yeah, so that there is a specific kind of a understanding, but I don't think it's a legal agreement per se.
Yeah, I think, it's Louise, I think, again, I think we should have some kind of written understanding with the law firm. It doesn't have to be a contract, but it needs to be a letter of understanding or whatever. And that includes, you know, how they're going to charge us, what they're going to charge us for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's, I mean, my experience is that's what you have with the client. And it doesn't have to be fancy, but like, what, you know, what are they going to charge us per partner or per whatever for it, and any overhead costs, et cetera.
They do send us a price list, you know, usually once a year or so, that indicates what the cost is, the hourly cost for the different associates and partners and whatnot.
Okay. But I mean, I think whoever raised that, I think raises a good point. Should we shop that agreement over maybe, you know, it's like picking an auditing firm. The general rule is you don't want to keep the same auditing firm for more than 4 or 5 years, and then you put it back out. I'm not sure that we need, I mean, I'm just saying, maybe that's good due diligence, but whatever.
I have to say, I do understand that strategy or that goal or that procedure with an auditor. I think it almost seems to be, in my experience, opposite with a town attorney, and that there's benefit in having history and experience and knowing something that, you know, legal was settled 10 years ago, and you're able to ask them about it, and they have it in their records and they can look it up. And I guess, you know, I would say it's, you know, unless there's, you know, a bunch of problems, that's one of those areas that I think having a relationship is desirable. That's at least in my experience.
You know, well, I don't disagree with that, Dean, at all. Just at all, as long as we understand how they're charging, what they're delivering.
Yeah.
Something I found with the general counsel we have now, they're the only law firm that I've worked with since 2014. They do have other municipal clients, one, so that's, you know, this is an area of their expertise. but I think to Dean's point also, I have noticed that they are quick or don't spend a lot of time on some things because they're already issues that they've worked on with the town. They don't have to re-up their familiarization with our land use regs and that piece, which really any law firm can come up to speed on. But what I've noticed on the spending side is the number one factor in how much the town spends on legal is how much the select board wants to use them. And the last 2 years, we've really made
what you want us to take a responsibility for this? Is that what you're saying?
On this one.
We have to be accountable for this?
I mean, 1 year, the legal bill was over $50,000. And then, the last 2 years, we've made it like a conscious and verbal effort to reduce legal to the least that we think we need. And we've done a great job. I think legal is what?
Down there. Yeah. It's quite a bit down.
Without, to what Fritz would say is without sacrificing, the town's position on any issue. You always should go to legal to protect the town from exposure and liability. But I think we've done a great job of being conservative over the last couple of years with that.
Right, but part of my question was why isn't it on here? That's it.
Yeah.
It's not like I want to change legal terms. I want to see it on this piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to keep it on the radar and transparent and
have a date on it. I mean, they've been the town attorneys for eons, so they do have the historic knowledge.
Yeah.
And I agree with both Dean and Frank, as amazing as that sounds. But I think it wouldn't hurt to put it on here. And so we kind of think, well, like, if they changed the charging methods this year or whatever.
Okay. All right.
And then also, Jim, the purchasing policy, I think, was created in 2014 or 2015. Is that right, Dean?
Yeah, around there. I had it up on the my computer.
15.
Yeah, approved in 2015. Good memory, Matt.
It was early, when I first came on the board. So it was a big lift to really go through and look at every single dollar that's spent with every contractor. And part of that purchasing policy is setting up vendors that were so important or so critical to the town that we didn't want them to ever go out to bid. And that's that preferred vendor category. Doesn't mean the select board doesn't have the authority to go out to bid if we're not happy for whatever reason, but it just made it a little less onerous to send out so many bids every year.
Well, how do you get on the preferred list? Because I would like to recommend Lynn Motti for being on that preferred list.
I'll second that, and then we just vote on it, and it's done. Yeah, we can put that on there. Do you know if Kathy was on the preferred vendor and it's just that Lynn isn't?
I'm not sure. I don't know. It just, I think we should add her.
Yeah. So let's put that on the next meeting agenda.
Okay.
So that's kind of historically, Jim, where we got to these. And that's why you don't see many before 2014.
Good.
Yeah, we went out to bid on a lot of these.
I didn't expect to start a long conversation. I was just wondering if occasionally it goes out for bid. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, 7:45, approve warning for the Australian ballot vote, fiscal year 21 in the municipal vote, municipal budget and budget-related articles on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 at Shaw Town Office. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the warning for the town of Charlotte special meeting town meeting on June 23rd, 2020, as amended.
No,
And
second
I'll,
that.
oh, are you done, Frank? I'll
Yes.
second that.
Now, I'm just wondering, is June 23rd going to be early enough?
Or do you mean late enough?
I mean, early enough, because if we have it on June 23rd, if it fails on July 1st, we don't have a budget, and the select board has to have a meeting to work with the budget and then put it out for vote 30 days later.
So that means we could go into the next fiscal year with no budget.
Yes. So I'm wondering if June 2nd might be a better alternative, although maybe not for the situation we're in, but for a timeline in order to be able to, if it gets a no vote, that there's some time to work on it.
Well, so the thought about June 23rd was to get it after the 15th because it seemed like it's on the 15th that Governor Scott is setting changes to his stay safe policy, stay home policy. Right now we're at May 15th and it's possible he extends to June 15th. And so I was trying to get us after that date. From what I understand, any municipality that experiences a failed budget, if they physically cross the fiscal year without an approved budget, it's a de facto budget. Is that right, Dean?
That's what I understand. Yes.
Which would be able to operate under the previous year's budget until a budget is approved.
Right.
So I don't think the town is left in a position where we can't do something as a town, but it does allow us to possibly, avert scrambling a revote or, a change of procedure. It also gives the legislature that time and the governor to come up with some elections protocols for us based on the situation. But I think there's no right answer here. It's whatever, we come up with as a group.
Matt, how are you hearing June 15th? I've heard you mention it. I've not heard that.
Well, I'm looking at the historical behavior patterns of the governor, and his executive orders were April 15th, May 15th. So to me, June 15th seems like, I know there are 2-week increments based on his turning the spigot on or turning it off because it's a 2 to 14 day incubation cycle. So the data that the Department of Health collects from the time that he makes a decision about changing the state's behavior, he can't know the effect of that for 2 weeks. So the month increments of his decision making and the executive orders is basically 2 data cycles from the health department's observation abilities.
Thank you.
And I guess then the question is, weighing the benefits of, do we have enough time if the election is on June 2nd and it fails to hold another election before July 1st anyways? I don't know.
I think there's a 30-day warning.
In the charter, I believe it's 7 days, but it has to be, it has to go to the paper, and that takes time.
The charter says 7 days?
Yeah. if a budget vote on budget voted by Australian ballot is rejected, the select board shall prepare a revised budget. It shall establish a date for the vote on the revised budget, blah, 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 blah. The date of the vote shall be at least 7 days following the public notice. I think 7 days was used because the concern was to try not to get into the new fiscal year without a budget. So it was a short warning time, fairly short warning time. Yeah,
7 days after the warning.
after the warning.
So
Yeah, pretty tight.
But no matter what it takes, no matter what time they give you for after the warning, then we have to get together and decide what the new vote's going to be on.
Right.
So we have to hold at least one meeting to discuss the budget and then warn it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would probably take, at least 2 weeks total, maybe even longer, 2.5, including the notice. It depends upon the timing of if the select board were to hold a special meeting or something.
Well, we'd have to, and in order to get it done sooner rather than later, if we had our meeting on the 22nd and the vote went on the 23rd, and then we figured out that it failed,
Right.
then we'd have to have a special meeting sometime.
Maybe on the 29th.
And maybe on the 29th, and then you got to have, if for some reason that gets nailed down to a number and we bring that back before the voters, it's a week to wait, and so you're into July anyways.
Mm-hmm.
What are we gonna do?
Well, it sounds like we have a default budget, which is this year's budget, right? And so we're not going to go out of business. And this budget, which is being voted on, is not that much higher than last year's budget. So we could defer some things, and we could manage until we did it again. I would just leave it on the 23rd, but I'm open to anything.
Yeah, I agree with Louise. We have a default budget. We could use that if we need to.
Okay, if there's no more discussion.
The only other thing is on the second page, there are empty boxes.
Yeah, I need to get those dates from Mary on the checklist and the sample ballot.
So I don't know if we would need to add it to the
motion,
or if it just is part of the amendments.
You could say with dates to be provided by the town clerk for checklist and sample ballot.
Sounds good. So moved.
I'll second that.
No more discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So this will be in the town clerk's office tomorrow for signatures.
I
And
guess
no more hyacinths for you, Dean.
allergic?
They make me
No, they have this heavy perfume.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Oh yeah. Well, I brought in a bunch today.
They can stay over on the town clerk's counter. They're very pretty though.
First signs of spring.
Yes.
Is there? Should I just make the motion?
Sure, go ahead.
Make a motion for a notice of public informational hearing for Australian ballot articles to be voted at a special meeting, town of Charlotte. To be published.
I'll move that. That notice.
Okay, and second it.
I'll second that.
And that's at a regular select board meeting.
Right. Yep. 6:05.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You almost done? You can watch. Oh,
You missed. I don't have kids, but I have a dog. I tried to show my picture of my dog. He's asleep now, so too late.
got whoopee cushion.
What?
Wait, you guys didn't hear it? You want me to do it again?
I know they heard it. We love 12-year-old boy. All right. Can I?
So the next agenda item, Dean put a copy of the email string. There was a public records request that the town clerk received and then forwarded to the select board. Dean, what's the protocol for those?
It is a potential legal issue, it seems like. So you could potentially go into executive session. But if you feel it's, it depends upon how, I guess, I don't know, antagonistic you feel it is, or if you feel like it's okay to discuss in open session.
Well, I think from my perspective, and I've discussed this with my significant other, it's going to come down to, and this may be more important than we think it is. I mean, I have no problem being transparent and providing information. The long-term issue is whether or not this is in fact a public document. And that, I think, is worth 10 minutes of, it's worth a little thinking about, because I am, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, would we make a precedent? Do we have some kind of precedent here? So I have conflicting thoughts. One thought is, yeah, let's just not worry about this, provide it. But the other thought is, let's be a bit cautious that we have not set a precedent that anything that goes to Matt is automatically a public record. And so I don't know whether it's I know we're on a tight budget, but whether it's worth checking with our town attorneys. So I'm of two minds about this one, but I'm a little concerned about creating a precedent that says, because the only person as I know now that even has this information is Matt. Does that make it a public record? And I don't know enough to know that, but that's my caution. There may be a way to provide it without creating a precedent too. But also, so I mean, on the substance, we have two issues. Do we create a precedent, and on the substance of it, are we opposed to providing it?
Are people okay with Dean checking with legal about that? I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because it's just that we don't want to walk into something that's going to bite us later on.
Yeah. And anytime a lawyer, I was given good advice from my uncle. Anytime a lawyer sends you something, have a lawyer look at it.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it more, probably like you said, in private with Matt to just look at what's going on and what their reasonings are and how it pertains to what was done.
Yeah, and I guess.
Yeah, and Frank, I agree with Frank on that one. And I did exchange. I think maybe the way we go into executive sessions that's really secure is I don't know, we call into a different phone number. I don't know what the right thing is there.
Right. We can do a conference call at the end of this, or we could.
I could establish a separate meeting after. I mean, you're supposed to make a motion to go into executive session and then a motion to come out of executive session. So you could make a motion to go into executive session, and I could send a separate Zoom link, and you can click on that link, and then, basically come back out as, and that would be the end of the meeting.
At the tail end of this meeting.
Right.
People want to do that for a little bit, because the way I read the request also, it pertains to all the committee members and any communications that they had. The Energy Committee. And those are, not, so I just don't know how much information that they're requesting or what the requirements of VSA 315 are. And if there's some type of, time limit on that public records request. Do you know, Dean?
I don't.
So, okay, let's plan on going into executive session to discuss it further at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Matt, this is Julian.
It's a little muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. How will I know if any action was taken?
Who's speaking?
This is Julian.
Hi, Julian.
Hi.
You are a bit muted, Julian.
I'm sorry. Is it better if I just take out my headphones? Is that any better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, sorry. My headphones aren't very good. How will I know if you guys take any action after executive session?
Well, I think, I mean, we've already decided to have legal take a look at this, and we don't expect any action.
Okay, that's all I need to know, if I had it to wait or something.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So 810, the invoices for security and transportation for town meeting. Is everyone else under the same impression that the transportation was going to be paid for by the school district?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't get any idea that we were doing anything with transportation.
Yeah, Fritz was at the meeting with me, and that was clearly stated that that was one of the things that they were covering.
And what was the transportation for? I mean, I know it was from the church to the school, but
to have, because the district said one of the accommodations that they were making for the town to have elections at school was they had all their staff park off site.
Oh, all right.
And we're covering the cost of their being brought to the school for school hours.
Okay.
It's negligible, but
well, I think what it raises is what we've known we've got to do, which is we've really got to engage with the school district on these issues, and we need an overall plan, because it's not just this or the security, it's also the whole relationship, including the recreation. And what we need is some kind of, overall plan with them. This kind of ad hoc stuff we're doing is not going to serve us well over the long run. That's all. That's my 2 cents.
I agree. I did receive an email from Gene Jensen at central office asking what the status was. I wanted to have the conversation with us first. And Louise, I would like to move forward with the district in that vein of not just looking at this as an election issue or a recreation issue, but just looking at the whole relationship and coming up with an MOU. But I also didn't want to respond fully without saying, updating her on what the board's deciding to do. So other thoughts?
Well, I think I would get into have Nicole there to try to make sure that the recreation is all tied into this same thing.
And that's easy enough logistically to have 2 select board members. Nicole won't change that, so that'd be good to have her there. And she really has, the details, the ins and outs of what the town needs from the school for recreation more than any of us do.
Right. And do we know if Nicole, on behalf of the town, has already entered in a contract with the district?
I don't know that it's a contract.
Or an MOU, or?
I don't know of anything official, although they certainly agreed on a fee schedule that we baked into the budget. I don't know how much of that is contractually binding. I don't remember signing that contract. Dean, do you remember?
No, I mean, I think it was, like you said, it was kind of an agreement, but there wasn't really a document per se.
So that's somewhat flexible.
And of course, this is to use the school. Now, what is the town getting for using any of its properties for school functions?
That I would certainly bring that up in the conversation. I mean, I think it'd be important for us to strategize as a board before 2 of us go to have those discussions.
Okay.
So I guess if we spend some time in executive session strategizing at the next meeting, that's May 11th. Then sometime in mid-May, I could say we'd be looking forward to sitting down and having some conversations about an MOU with 2 select board members and our recreation director.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, we need to, I've said enough. We need to have an overall discussion with them.
And then as far as the nuts and bolts go, I'd propose we, approve payment of the invoice for the security, but not for the transportation.
Yeah, and even the security, I'm not
either.
I'm not happy with that at all. Again, the problem is making a precedent.
Yep.
Agree
It was their security. They were securing the children. They weren't securing the town vote, the voters.
Okay.
Well, I mean, no, just would it make sense to kind of defer that, say we want this to be part of an overall discussion, or do you feel that we've as a group have agreed to pay that?
No, I think everyone was pretty clear. I was, on vacation and called into the meeting, but the board was pretty clear that didn't want to be committing to paying that. I kind of forgot that. I'm just putting in my personal opinion again. But if we want to continue with that, I think it's a fine thing to bring to the table to discuss, how to iron it out. So I'll say we're going to hold off on these invoices until we can discuss them in person.
Yeah, till we can come up with an idea that you and Louise, if you're going to be the people on the front line to go present and negotiate, and if for some reason things go back to town meeting day, it could be retroed back, depending on whatever negotiations may come out of it.
Okay. That sounds good. Let me just grab a pen to jot those down.
I'm sure you all saw in the obituaries that Monica, can't remember her last name, who had been a long time. Yeah.
Smith. Monica Smith.
Really sad. Yeah, she was my principal.
Yeah.
Was that in the Free Press or the Charlotte News, or?
It was in the Freep this morning.
Okay.
The capital budget and program.
I'm going to step away for a minute. I've got to make a very quick phone call to my son.
Okay. I guess if you, I did find an email from Nicole about the recreation. If you want, I can just look at that and read it to you quick.
Sure.
Just make sure that this is the most recent, and I'm not sure that it is, but it's from Nicole. I met with Gene Jensen, and this is to the select board. I met with Gene Jensen today regarding changes on facility usage. And I did just forward this to you, by the way, if you have access to email. Although the rate and fees have not been provided or approved until November 4th, Gene assured Mary and I that the total cost would be between $11,000 to $13,000 for FY 2021. In FY 2021, we will no longer be covering any field maintenance, mowing, fertilizing, etc., including the cost to resurface the basketball courts. The recreation program budget presentation is set for November 4th, which is the same day the school board's approval on usage fees. Instead of waiting for the final approval of fees, Mary is going to add another line item under recreation for facility usage. I will estimate on the high end and see how the first year goes with a new contract. So at that point, there wasn't a contract. It seems there was yeah, I don't see any actual approved contract after that.
When was that email?
It was in the fall, so it was prior to November. It was in October, I believe.
Yeah.
I didn't know if Nicole had already made payments for facility usage already.
That would be in the year-to-date budget, which I think that was an added line. So I think it's just going to show up in the FY21 budget. So let me see, under recreation. I don't see it in the current year budget.
No.
No.
Shouldn't it be? Should it be?
No, because I think it's starting July 1.
Oh.
Okay, let me know if you want to proceed with capital budget or wait until Louise gets back.
Would it be part of the of a rec program expense?
Yeah, that's what that email from Nicole said. Mary was going to set it up as a rec expense, but I think it's in FY21.
I think Frank's question is to how was it being applied before that? Because it's hard to see.
Before that, it was there was a
on page whatever.
I think it was
page 10. There's a of the general ledger. There's a rec program expense, and I was just wondering if it was bound up into that.
Gotta be.
It used to be under town lands. It was called school fields and gym.
Ah.
And actually, there is some expenditure in there.
Yep, $5,050. But only 137 is spent.
Let me just look in the town report for. Yeah, there is a new line in the budget under recreation for FY21. It's called CCS facility usage fees, and the budget is $7,425.
So yeah, I was just wondering if that was based on something that's already been used. And what?
I think it was part of that negotiation with between Nicole and Jean Jensen.
Okay.
I just think with that knowledge, Nicole would have some input.
Yeah. Okay, looks like Louise was back. She is.
So just looking at timing.
Thanks, guys.
No, we're close to 9 o'clock. Do people want to postpone this one till next meeting or give it a crack? And
there wasn't anything burning on it that I'm aware. It was kind of a, an ongoing project that I think Carrie has been pushing. But you did have some items that you wanted to just add to the agenda under select board updates. So I'll certainly go however you guys want to go.
I'm really shocked that you guys haven't asked about the beach report. Okay.
I love these beach reports.
That's in select board updates.
It's hilarious because I think we made the right decision to leave it open, and we made the right decision to leave the tennis courts open. So I usually go down. I don't go every day, but I go every other day. Most days I go down and I just check on it. People are doing, except for the CVU juniors, the girls, the gaggle of girls. who were not socially distancing and causing a great racket. People have been very respectful.
Are people okay with postponing the discussion of the capital budget and program?
Sorry, I changed the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's defer the capital budget so we can all go to.
Wait, Dean, we should bring up that Mo wants to do the maintenance, the lawn on Tuesdays.
So if everyone is okay with postponing that till next meeting, then we can move forward.
I'm fine.
Okay. Let's do the minutes real quick, Carrie, and then come back to that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Charlotte Select Board meeting conducted via teleconference April 13, 2020, as may be amended.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thanks, Frank.
I have one important one to me and then some diddly things. Line 69. It says will happen. It should say are required.
Yep.
And then do we really want to say on line 82, also known as junior? It's okay. It's so minor. Okay, and then here's the one.
It just gets confusing because everybody calls him Junior, so I can't say Hugh and I can't say, you know what I mean? So if
Lynn, let's just leave it in.
Okay.
On 109, what I was trying to say, now I really regret that I opened my mouth, which happens to me a lot more these days. What I was really trying to say is, I think it's what Governor Scott is saying. We can't we can't police we can't police we cannot police all these requirements or the requests. And what Scott says is people just need to be informed. So I'd either take that out or say Louise was just rattling her mouth off, which I'd be happy with too.
Yeah, I would strike it. I don't think it's important. If that's what you want, I always defer to the intent of the person speaking.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll return the favor sometime. And then if you go to line 224, this is so down in the plumbing. When we changed oil to well, it's not an N, it's an A.
Oh yeah.
And then also, I see it now. Maybe it's fine. Landowners near the old lantern. Okay, so that's fine. If we don't want to, that's all I have.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, wow.
I know normally your meetings are over. Your meeting over yet?
I've got a couple things on line 63. On line 63, it says CFC. It should be either CC or C of C. There should be a certificate of occupancy or certificate of compliance, I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah, CFC. Yeah. C of, I think we were saying, yeah. Certificate of compliance. Either one is fine.
And I got confused on line 228 with the long-term issue is that the well is on town property that the town cannot use. I would change it to does not use.
Yeah, you can change it to that. I think I probably did say cannot use because there is a legal issue there that we can't lessen the amount that the beneficiaries are entitled to. So
Well, they have lease rights to be able to use the well, but was there anything in that that said that we cannot use the well?
Yeah, because we can pumping out a storage capacity. It doesn't affect the wells.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, if all you had down there, we'll say is a drinking fountain, you wouldn't deter the other people from the amount of water that they're using.
So I think you are correct, but I think the minutes are correct and probably what I said, which may have been incorrect.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
But I do think as we walk through that issue, at some point, to me, the underlying big issue is who owns the well.
Yeah.
So other than that, I'm fine.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes passed. Thank you, Lynn and Dean. Okay, select board updates. Carrie, you had one top of your head? Dale Knowles? Oh, you're muted.
Mo does their mowing on Tuesdays down at the beach. There's a lot of people, or they have some concerns, right, Dean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess they indicated they had some concerns. I'm not sure what we can really do about it, and I'm not sure really I'm not sure what the concerns are specifically. Did you understand that, Carrie?
Well, I'll look and see what, let me refresh my memory. Let's see.
I mean, I guess they will be used, if they come in with their rig, they will take up some parking spaces, if that's the issue.
Well, she was saying Tuesday late in the morning, they need to find signs for men working if it's crowded down at the beach. There was some crowding down there when they were there, I guess. I asked her to join the Zoom meeting.
Okay, yeah.
For public comment, but I guess mostly they want a sign again.
In all the times I've been down there, which has been frankly most days, even at the height when it was really warm and nice out, there's been plenty of parking spaces. It's been busy, but the parking lot has not been overflowing. So, I don't know. I mean, that's my personal observation.
Right.
But I've got good bags of trash.
Do people walk in the field, or I didn't quite get from Vanessa what the concern is as far as.
Yeah, well, what I see from what I've seen, most of the activity is right around the parking lot. People sitting at the picnic tables, people playing tennis very respectfully, and people waiting to play distantly. There is a little bit of traffic because of the Frisbee golf. But the real activity is, people are sitting at the picnic tables. So there you go.
Where's the trash coming
It's in my garbage can.
No, I know, but is it in Is it in the picnic area or?
No, there's so little trash right now. When I first started doing this, I picked up a lot of stuff and I went into the woods and picked up a lot of crap that was in there. There's very little, it's, you know, you maybe pick up a can here or something there. It's just not enough to even worry about. People are really being good.
Right.
Okay. So maybe, I guess, just keep an eye on that, Louise, to see if there's some kind of problem there that Mo is experiencing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was not there when they were there, so I have no firsthand knowledge of that.
They're just going to start, you know, maybe tomorrow is when they'll be there.
It's going to be crappy all week, so
okay.
I don't expect a lot of people being there.
Right.
Select board updates, the animal control officer issue. Is this about the post from a resident on Front Porch Forum? Yeah, I thought we had visited that issue, and it was, if memory serves me correctly, it was an issue with a cat, which is not under the purview of the animal control officer.
I would just, Dean, do you have this under control? Excuse the pun.
Well, I'm not discounting Ms. Frost's concern or experience. I think I would say our general experience and feedback with the animal control officer is very positive. So there might be one issue that Ms. Frost experienced. I think it was perhaps an error in terms of our canine control officer had the wrong phone number. That happens, and I think other than that, she was very responsive and tried to reach back out.
Well, what I really was asking, sorry, Dean, was whether you think you can handle this with your skill set. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Sure.
That's the right answer.
Okay. Sure. Yep.
The Green Mountain Power Bill. Mary emailed me sometime midweek too about it. I mean, what do we need to do to transfer it?
Well, I do have a couple of thoughts. I guess I just want to just put out there, and then I'll be quiet. I don't think it's as easy as telling the two parties that they can split the bill. There are two parties that have not gotten along for several years. There was litigation between them. So I don't think they're going to willingly just take over the bill. You know, if there's some kind of document, conveyance, you know, quick claim deed, the town would need to do, that's possible, but it also would take the town attorney at a time when we're trying to not spend legal. So I guess I'm just wondering if this can wait until the new fiscal year and then have the town attorney look into it to legally convey.
Well, we have the nuclear option to you know, which is we just tell Green Mountain we're not paying the bill. And then they don't have any power and they don't have any water.
Or we pull a Champlain
and
Valley School District and send a copy of the invoice to the parties and ask them to pay it.
I mean, it's not an option. Disconnecting the power is not an option that I would recommend, but it is an option. And maybe, I mean, I actually went over there, you know that. I think the first line of defense would be to find someone, Eugene, or the right person to talk to both of them and say, you know, and Mary's right, the town doesn't want to pay this power bill anymore. And what are you guys going to do about it? And then if they don't deal with it because they're too adversarial, well, I mean, that's our ultimate option. So neither of you have, it's like 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds, you know, okay, you can't play nice with the toys. Well, then none of you have toys.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is at some point the power bill went up tenfold. So when it was $125 a year, it was no big deal. Now that it's $135 a month, you know, by the time July rolls around, that's 2 hours illegal.
No, I got that in. I mean, the only thing that I know is I got in touch with our well guy, Spafford's, right? And I met them out there. And I know, you know, this is not my competency. And we looked down in the hole, and the well guy says, this is not a well problem. It's a plumbing problem. And they showed me, they looked down, they said, there's something wrong with the hose. So one option is to get a plumber out there to fix that problem, and the power bill should go down. But I'm way above my pay grade.
No, my understanding of the agreement is they're responsible for the infrastructure. The town's responsible to provide the water.
Okay.
So if that pump breaks, it's up to them to replace their own pump.
Well, see, that's
broken, that's up to them. And here, their broken plumbing is costing the town electricity. So
no, and listen, that was the biggest question I have in all of this after thinking about it was exactly that, Matt. Who owns the well? Who has responsibility for maintaining the well? Because the electricity is, it's a pain in the pain, but and we need to figure that one out. But the real question is when that pump fails, whose job is it?
Right, but not only that, but when the pump fails or if there's a issue with it and the power goes up by so much, should the town be able to get reimbursed for at least the difference in, and I'm not saying don't take the whole power bill and give it to them, but at least the difference in the power bill from before the break to now.
Yep.
No, I agree. I agree with that. The question is, how do we manage this? Because we've got two fighting parties.
Well, we could do it two prongs. One, have Dean send a letter with Frank's suggestion saying, or tactic saying, this is the delta in the nominal power bill that you've paid, that the town has covered for you traditionally. You're responsible for covering the difference because of something wrong with your mechanical systems. Please submit this payment amount and let them come back to us complaining that they don't want to pay the bill or they shouldn't have to. At the same time,
or what percentage they want to, or what percentage they're willing to pay each.
Yeah, and then at the same time, have legal spend an hour or two on coming up with a way to clean this up for us.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, because I haven't read the underlying documents, which I'm willing to try and do that this week. Is how did we get ourselves into this mess? Like, you know, who owns the well? Who's responsible for its maintenance? You know, Dean, have you had a chance to read any of the underlying documents?
Yeah, and all part of the now. It's you know, it was purchased from Earl Burns, and he retained a right to use the well for himself.
Oh, okay.
And then he conveyed that right to the other parties.
Because he owned one of the houses and he owned the old lantern.
Right.
All right, but who owned the property where the well sits on?
That was part of the Burns property.
That's part of the Burns property. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got
Which
it.
was purchased for its septic capacity if the school's septic failed
Okay.
by the town.
Okay.
And this piece of baggage just came along for the ride.
But I mean, like, anyway, Dean, maybe you and I could chat tomorrow. Like,
okay.
Who do these documents assign the underlying obligation with respect to maintaining the well? And
Yeah,
you don't have to answer that right now, but
Right.
you know.
I'll send this to you tonight. I expect a full answer from you tomorrow morning. I was
Well, that's right, because I can't sleep tonight anyway. So just send it. I'll read it.
So what are we thinking? Skip legal and lean on Louis' expertise?
Well, I'm happy to take a look at it, but I think I think the thing is we need someone who can negotiate with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And our ultimate leverage is we're not paying the power bill.
I think the main thing right now is to, like I said, if we can figure out how the power bill went up, at least get that out of our hands, so to get some of that money back.
Yeah.
And if this continues, if the break hasn't been fixed yet, it's still increased. So it's going to be a continued billing. They can choose what percentage each one of them want to pay of this overage. And then I think we may have to contact the lawyer to find out how we can shove the rest of this, if we can, to them to take over this electrical bill.
Yeah, but I think so. But the intermediary question is, should we get a plumber out there? I mean, that's what my well guy said. It's a plumbing problem. No, okay.
Yeah, but it's not even a plumbing problem. This is going to be
nothing.
This is going to be a contractor problem, because I think from what I understand, it was the trail was wet, which means it's a break in the water line somewhere going from the well to the old lantern and the house, which would be part of their supply line, which should be their issue. And they need to hire a contractor to come in, dig the line up, find the leak, repair it, and be done.
Well, yeah. So my well, the Spaffords, who are our well guys, they just, anyway, all I know is they looked down in it and they said, it's not a well, it's not a problem with the well. And I'm way, like you guys know way more than I do. It's a problem with a piece of the piping or the whatever. Okay.
Right. But it's not in the well itself. Even if it was, it would still be, if they're supposed to take care of all the repairs.
I got you.
It would still be part of their thing. I mean, basically what the well guy said is that the pipe going down in the well, the foot valve within the pump, and the pump is working fine, which means that it's outside of the well itself, which means it's in the pipe on the way to their structures.
All right.
And again, they're responsible for the well pump in the well. It's literally, that's their liability. Even the well pump is, let alone things outside of the well casing.
Okay.
I think we should send them that letter. I love that idea of, this is how much extra the needed repair has cost the town. Please send payment, net 30 or whatever it is, and just wait for a response. And that way it's kind of kindly on their radar sooner than later.
Yeah, then we can get the lawyer involved and ask for all the electrical power since way back when.
So
Mary does that. That's free.
And Dean, if you send me the documents, I will actually look at them.
Okay. So my understanding is the water first goes into the old lantern, and then it goes to the farmhouse, which is what the Wigmans own now. So they're not experiencing a flood. I mean, presumably this is caused by some kind of water line breakage, and no one's experiencing a flood that is triggering the pump to run. I'm not sure whether the Gojaks are in town or not.
The pump's definitely running because the power bill has gone up.
Right, and we're not saying the leak is within any of their structures. There's a long pipe that goes from the well all the way to the old lantern. Anywhere within that 1/8 of a mile or whatever it is of pipe could have a leak.
And if that has any pressure loss, then the pump's going to keep trying to make it up.
So it's before it reaches the old lantern. Okay.
Probably.
I would say so. And I would also say that there's probably a shut-off somewhere to shut off the Wigmans, so that if the old lantern wasn't getting enough water, they'd shut them off. Although it's probably illegal, they might be able to.
So split the extra cost 50-50 between the two parties?
I'd send one bill to both of them and say that they have to decide on how they're paying it.
I agree with Frank on that one.
Me too. And whatever they end up deciding, if they do come up with a split, we could use as guidance for future deals. Like, you guys thought this was a fair on this, then that's the percentage we're going to.
And we thought we were gonna have to solve really difficult, high level issues.
No.
Neighborly.
Awesome.
Good select boards make good neighbors. Okay, that's that one. Green Mountain Power Bill. Oh, the wastewater committee. Louise, you'll look into that. Just to see
I've got that on my list. I've got that. The West Village wastewater.
Yep.
We'll do that.
It's the fee schedule is where they're at.
Yeah, and I think I can help on that one.
And Dean, was there some confusion about what a meeting is and what can be discussed outside of a meeting?
Energy committee.
Okay. Yep. So they wanted to have, I guess there was a film that I'm not sure, I think it's probably an online film that various people, some members of the current energy committee, some former members of the energy committee, and some other residents want to watch and then discuss amongst themselves, not really coming up with anything specific to town policy, but kind of discussing the film. I think it's about climate change. And so they wanted to host that discussion using the Zoom, the town Zoom account. And my initial thinking was that is a meeting. And then in thinking, I guess, about it and looking at the statute, I guess it's if they have a discussion about the movie and not policy, then it might not be considered a meeting. So I asked Rebecca to talk it over with the Energy Committee liaisons, which is Matt and Frank. I don't know if she's gotten to you yet, or I just gave you a heads up on that.
You gave me a heads up, and I think I received an email from Deirdre, but I thought it was something else.
I received nothing.
Okay.
Oh, no, Deirdre had a question about moving forward with solar discussions. Mary and Dean. Yeah, Dean sent something at 1 o'clock today to us, Frank.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, if they're going to use the town Zoom, I think it should be a warned meeting.
Okay.
But I hear you, Frank, for sure. I agree with that. But if the majority of the committee or the quorum of the committee gets together, isn't that a meeting? And don't they have to warn it?
It depends on if they're talking about something that they would make a decision on,
okay,
or
fair enough.
Information according to what their committee does.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
fair enough.
Yeah, that was the point.
And of course, they're the energy committee. When you talk about climate control, you're talking about energy. It's out there in the world that anybody can watch. It's kind of a, can the 4 or 5 of them go to any kind of movie and discuss it?
Right.
Only if they say stay 6 feet apart, okay?
I guess for me, was there a compelling reason why they shouldn't warn it?
I think it was, they felt it might be kind of an onerous thing as far as not a huge deal, but just kind of, and also does it, if every time they discuss global warming, do they have to warn that? I guess they kind of wondered, is this something that in the future is going to be a kind of a requirement?
I guess my position is if it's something that's going to be used by them in a meeting, maybe find a way to make sure that it gets brought up within a meeting if they're going to use it as part of a decision.
In an open meeting, to have some open discussion about it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. The statute that got quoted here, that's the one carve out. If they're having an innocuous discussion about something that they think might inform a public decision at a future meeting, they should have warned that meeting. Mm-hmm. They should have warned that discussion. I mean, with this open meeting stuff, I've just been erring on the side of caution and just warn it. I mean, they were at the training that I went to, the Vermont League of Cities and Town training for select board members. Carrie, you were there. It was, if I see Frank on the side of the road and I say, hey, with those ash trees, I really wanted to spend $19,000 instead of $20,000. And then a week later, I'm talking with Louise cleaning up garbage at the beach. And she says to me, hey, what do you think maybe we should spend $15,000 on it? And I say, well, I was thinking 19. We've just breached open meeting law because a majority of the board has discussed the same topic outside of a public meeting between public meetings. It doesn't even have to be 3 people in the same place at the same time. You can't add up to a quorum of any item of business.
So I guess maybe the relevant comparison would be, what if you were discussing whether or not you think emerald ash borers are going to be a problem? I mean, more kind of generic global topic rather than a specific policy decision.
But that's the point. Like, let's say that it's like that, and then that general topics gets everyone into agreement that we must do something about emerald ash borers, and then the next energy committee meeting,
there's no discussion because
emerald ash borer. Yeah, we already decided we're doing something. That's where I mean, people just have to be aware of what they're discussing. If they were all wanting to get together as members of the energy committee to watch a documentary on Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, it's clear that's not going to affect the public policy that they're going to be working on at some future date. But if they're doing something with climate change and with energy, it seems like for not much effort, they can cover the town's exposure of breaching open meeting laws by just warning it.
Right. And then can other people go to that then?
Yeah, if it's an open meeting, it would have to be, a link would have to be provided.
Yeah. If they're using the town account, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Who else? What other select board updates do we have?
The only other thing I have is I have been working with Beth Merritt to make sure that there is a clear accounting on where the library is. And she it's in her court right now, but I think that was an issue. Like, okay, it's not a question of a money crunch because I think there's plenty of funds to go around. It's just like, where are we? And Mary raised this with me, and I said I would follow up, and I have with Beth, but I need to. She owes me something, but I'll get in touch with her again.
Great.
And there's a library board meeting tomorrow, which I will be on.
So as far as addendum 11 of the executive order, Matt, are you going to feel you're going to take the lead on that as far as being trained?
So at the May 4th meeting, yeah, I mean, it's the earliest anyone can get in right now. So I'll ask, and yes, I'll take the lead, and I'll look into, I guess I can call VLCT.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, there's municipal listservs and emails between towns, and I haven't seen anything so far, or, from the Vermont Department of Health with those links that you provided.
Okay.
So,
could be industry specific.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, as a landlord or or power, I don't know what the.
A lot of it was for construction. But it might also be for the property management side.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I guess if you can keep your ears to the tracks on the listservs,
yeah. It was, I mean, what I've seen is what Margaret said is there was a link to the VOSHA website with a PDF with 47 pages, and you read that, and then you sign saying I've read it, and maybe it's the same thing Jim has seen at the fire station, or maybe there's more. Jim, what's over at the fire station? Is it more involved?
Oh, we get more involved. That's right. There's a daily update that we have to agree to read and get signed off that we read it and comply with it. It's pretty intensive now. So it's probably we're a little bit more than what you're talking about.
Right, because you're a responder. You're.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of new protocols and so forth.
Right. Matt, I could send you the link that we received from
Margaret.
Yeah, it was from Margaret, and Mary I think received it also from the listserv.
Sounds good.
Who's got a TikTok clock?
Okay. Not sure whose that is.
Are you going into executive session or no?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so I sent you a link. I just need to start the meeting, but I can do that.
Dean, you sent that to our email?
Yes.
Okay. So let me know when we're done here, and I'll try and get on my email.
So I'm not sure there's a totally smooth legal way to do this, but you're basically going to motion to go into executive session and leave this meeting, and I'll probably end this Zoom meeting, and then you'll come back and just adjourn.
And I have one question, important question. Julian, how are you feeling? How are you doing, sweetie?
I just wanted to say, this is my last meeting for a little while. I'm going on maternity leave.
Oh, that's right.
Have you had the baby yet?
I wish. Every night.
Sorry. That's really rude of me.
No, I have my bags packed. They're by the door every night. Oh, yes.
Oh, congrats.
This is probably it for me since the next meeting's the 11th. So,
okay. Will you let us know?
Yes.
Okay. Please let us know.
Keeping you in my prayers.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to say thanks.
Yeah, I don't do prayers, but I do good karma. And it's so much fun having babies because then they're out of there and, life's better.
There you go.
Or worse.
So I just wanted to say thank you and to say good luck in the next couple months with everything. And thank you for answering my myriad of questions every meeting. And I don't know who will be picking up in the meantime, but I'll be back, I guess, at some point.
Well, we hope so. But do keep Dean informed, and he can inform us so we can.
Sure. Absolutely. You guys all have a great evening, and thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And I wanted to tell everybody, thank you for your comments earlier. That was really nice. I was on mute and I didn't want to interrupt the meeting, but thank you very much.
You're special.
Thank you.
All right, I'm getting off here. I'm getting out of here.
Well, who's going to motion executive session and who's going to second it?
Okay, I'll motion we go into executive session to talk about personnel issues.
Dean,
Come on, guys, don't leave me out here cold.
wait, Dean,
Yeah,
you sent us the link. Is that going to show us the password?
you should just be able to click on it, right? That's what you normally do, or do you know? It's a Zoom link.
You should just be able to click on it, Carrie. Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second that.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
All those in favor of adjourning the select board meeting, going into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, see you on the other side.
Yeah, have a good night.
See if this works.
Good night.